Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC Vegas 37. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined by Cody Saftic. We're bringing you this show, compliments of DraftKings Sportsbook, breaking down. I mean, there's 15 fights. There was almost one that fell off this afternoon, but it got replaced. So there's 15 fights. So there's plenty of options to go through here, Cody, but not exactly the highest level of competition going on at UFC Vegas 37.
Yeah, it's actually tough to figure out the spots that you like best because it's just a random assortment and not a ton of mismatches. It is matched up fairly well. And the problem is, and we're going to jump into this with all 15 fights, is almost everybody's got like a critical flaw to their game that your opponent could exploit. It's just whether or not they're actually going to put the proper game plan together. So yeah, we had a contender series last night with 6 full fights, and now we've got a full 15 fight UFC card on top of a full slate of Bellator fights. So don't feel that you need to be forced into any one spot, but there's still going to be tons of opportunities to find the exact best selection or, good pieces to make parlays and such forward. So I'm happy to be able to talk to you, my friend, because there's a lot of ideas I got bouncing around in my head about how either of these matchups could play out.
All right, we move to the main event of UFC Vegas 37. Anthony Lionheart Smith takes on Ryan Superman Spann, minus 170 Smith, plus 150 Spann. Take it away, Cody.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much I like Anthony Smith as a favorite, only because he's hardly ever the favorite. And I think when you're backing Smith, one of the big things about him is the underdog price, is that you normally get plus money. And he's a guy that ends up winning these spots a lot of people don't think he should be winning, right? He's got decent cardio, decent durability. He takes into the later rounds. It seems like that's where he strives the best. Now, there's a whole example of him losing the Andrew Sanchez fight. First 2 rounds, he comes back. He's losing the Lombard fight. First 2 rounds, he comes back. He's losing the Volkan Oezdemir fight. He comes back. So we know that he's able to make these comebacks. And so 5-round fights actually play out pretty good for him. I know you tweeted out earlier in the week, and I don't disagree at all. Why is Anthony Smith always headlining these shows? But to be honest, 5 rounds is actually built towards his game. So again, his last fight against Jimmy Crute, he cashes as a plus 215 underdog. The fight before that with Devin Clark, I mean, he's near even money with Devin Clark. The fight with Alexander Gustafsson, he's a plus 255 underdog. The Volkamir, the Oezdemir fight, plus 135. There you feel comfortable with them. Problem is, eventually he gets enough wins together that he's going to be a favorite in a spot, and this is the spot coming in here. So yeah, listen, I think that 5 rounds is going to play towards him. I think that he needs to probably just slow the pace down in the first round or 2, and then eventually take it into those deeper waters. But honestly, right, Paul, the name of the game here is volume, and Ryan Spann doesn't have that volume, A, and B, he hasn't proven an ability to go beyond 3 rounds to begin with. So I won't try to waste too much of your time because we do have 15 fights to get through. But the key things that we're going to look at for Ryan Spann is, so the last 2 fights have been in the first round, right? He got knocked out by Johnny Walker. He knocked out Misha Churkinov. Fine. But the fight before that was Sam Alvey. He looks great in the first round. The second round, not so great, but good enough to win the round. And then the third round, something that it's his territory he doesn't normally go to. He's completely gassed out, and he gets beat up handedly in the third round by Sam Alvey of all people because he's tired, right? The fight with just anything before that, they're all these first round finishes. The Alvey fight, though, he only lands 51 significant strikes in 15 minutes. The only other time he's fought 15 minutes against Louis Henry, where he lands 46 significant strikes. So both times is just super low output. He is a great striker. He just doesn't let his hands go quite enough. He's been relying on his wrestling a lot more and just taking these guys down and trying to execute the submission game. But against Anthony Smith, I don't think he's going to submit him. And I think that even if he does take him down, not really that big of a deal because Smith's shown that he can get taken down. He can get grinded for a few rounds, but he's still going to be in the fight. So I got to go with Lionheart. Another big weapon for Spann. He's 6'5" with a 79-inch reach. So I feel like a lot of opponents aren't able to deal with that, or at least they're not used to it and they can't really overcome a lot of that length. But with Smith, he's a big boy himself, 6'4", only a 76-inch reach, whatever, giving up 3 inches in that department, but he'll be all right. And then last but not least, ever since he's linked up with the guys over at Factory X Muay Thai, you see an improvement to his game overall, but Anthony Smith's jab's just been on point. I mean, obviously that's on display in his last fight against Jimmy Crute, but it's on display in the fight with Glover Teixeira as well, where he's just fast. He's got a snappy jab. He's mobile. He's got the better output. He's got the better cardio. He's got the bigger experience going to these later rounds. I really hate that I got to bet Anthony Smith as a favorite, but yeah, I do think that he's the rightful favorite. I will be siding with him.
I hate it. Yeah,
of course.
But I agree with you. And it's painful. It is so painful. But yeah, 5 rounds favors him. He's very, very tough to put away. I mean, Spann probably has to get the job done in the first couple of rounds. Otherwise, Lionheart Smith's going to dig deep. Sometimes Lionheart Smith looks a little bit tired out there, but he still gets the job done. Like, he's very well-rounded, super, super tough, super durable, as we're talking about. I mean, I don't have anything on it, Anthony Smith yet, but he is the side if I have to add something later in the week that I would definitely recommend.
Something interesting, too, is that if we're worried about Spann catching him early because Spann's an early first-round finisher, then you got to look at the fact that Anthony Smith has been knocked out twice in the last 10 years, okay? Those 2 times that he got knocked out consist of Glover Teixeira mauling this man for 17 straight minutes before he succumbed. Glover at one point was apologize. Dude, I am sorry.
Just quit.
I got to keep hitting. Yeah, like, what are you doing, man? Just tap out or something,
you're
right?
Not coming back.
Holy shit. And then the only other time he's been knocked out in the last 10 years was a body kick against Thiago Santos, which is like, I'm going to give him a pass on that one too. Went 5 rounds with John Jones. Even the Glover fight, it's a 5th round finish. He went the distance to Alexander Rakic, who's a pretty dangerous guy in his own right. He went into the 3rd round with Volkan Oezdemir and took some of his best shots. We know how heavy-handed Volkan Oezdemir is. And then furthermore, fought Alexander Gustafsson, who's now campaigning as a heavyweight and is a big guy, not a big power striker, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, he's not just durable because the results prove it. It's durable against elite level competition. I don't think Spann's going to be able to, deal with that. And if I'm the coaching staff and I'm Anthony Smith coming off of just blowing out Jimmy Crute's leg with those low calf kicks, I'd be like, dude, just do that again. This guy's 6'5" and he's going to stand in like a tall man stance. The leg will be on display, hit the low calf kick. As he starts to slow down from that and taking away his mobility, snap that jab in his face. As he starts to get desperate, we're going to grind on him and hopefully take him out in the later rounds. So we'll get to how we think the method of victory will be at the end, but I couldn't really tell you right now. I mean, I could see it being 5 rounds. Nah, I don't think so.
I think
Smith
it gets
probably
finished
takes him out midway. Yeah, midway through the fight.
I was thinking, and this is like super grease level, but like I am worried about Spann's ability to go 5 rounds. I mean, he's struggled in 3-round fights when he gets to the 3rd round. When he gets extended, hasn't had the greatest amount of time. Where are we looking here? Fight props, DraftKings Sportsbook, winning method. All right, Smith, or it's winning round. Yeah, I'm gonna look at a different website here.
Oh, you're looking for like a 3rd round prop or something.
I was thinking,
well, you know what?
4.
Smith's the man with these 3 and 4 round finishes,
4 or
right?
5. I was thinking 4 or 5, which at DraftKings Sportsbook. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I should have had this queued up already. Smith, round 5 is 16-1 or round 4 at DraftKings Sportsbook is 15-1. Round 5 is 25-1. So
really, interesting.
Those are spicy.
And what's Smith by submission specifically?
Yeah, Smith by submission is at DraftKings Sportsbook plus 275. There are some. They're on the read. They have the read on that. There are some better options. If you do a little price shopping, but the numbers for the round 4 and round 5 props.
Yeah, tasty.
I could end up with a little dabble of that. Anyway, I think we're both kind of on the same page here. Smith probably late. Maybe he gets it done in round 3, so those round 4 and 5 props don't come through. But I think the longer this fight goes on, Spann's got a couple rounds to get him out of there, and it's very hard to get Anthony Smith out of there. The guy's went 5 rounds he's got into the 5th round against elite competition. I feel like it's going to be a bad day at the office for him. All right, co-main event, we have Ariane Cutelaba taking on Devin Clark. Ariane Cutelaba, minus 145 favorite. Clark could be had for plus 125. I mean, this is kind of like the tale of 2 fights. I feel like we've learned enough about Ion. I say it both ways a bunch of times. Ariane Cutelaba is kind of... He's like a 7.5 minute fighter. That first round is like he's gonna unleash fury on you. The guy's got really solid wrestling. he hits like a mule, but the gas tank falls off of a cliff. That would be my only concern. I would say if you're gonna bet one side of this, I think I'm more drawn to Cutelaba, but I think this is a fight that you should really be paying attention to in the live window. Because if Devin Clark doesn't die in the first like 7.5 minutes, he may take over late. This could be very much like the Menifield fight, where Devin Clark was having a rough time, eating some shots, his face was swelling up, but he was able to persist, continue, and fight through a bunch of the damage that he was taking, and he stole the fight late in the fight. Cutelaba's the pick, but I've seen him gas enough times that I don't really want to touch him right now. I'll be watching this one closely live, though. What about you?
Yeah, so I think you nailed it, dude. He's a one-round fighter. He comes at you absolutely hard for that first round. And I mean, outside of fighting Magomed Ankalaev, very few guys can actually like handle him in that first. It's surviving the first 5 minutes and then getting on beyond that. He completely gasses out. I mean, you mentioned all of his wins are these first-round finishes. The Glover Teixeira fight, interesting. He outstrikes Glover Teixeira 40-10 in the first round. This is Glover. This is world-class competition. But like anything, if you get out of the first round, Glover gets out of the first round, chokes him out in the second. What I want to zone in on, though, is the fight subsequently. He knocks out Khalil Roundtree in the first. He loses to Magomed Ankalaev twice in a row. No problem there. And then you get the Dustin Jacoby fight. And this is a quintessential Ion Cutelaba performance. The first round, he kills him. You know, once he gets the fight to the ground, that ground and pound, those elbows, he very nearly stops him. Plus, Dustin Jacoby probably should have lost a point for grabbing the cage 3 or 4 times just to survive. It's a mauling. But shit, just like every Cutelaba fight, if you survive that first round, only here's the key difference in that last fight with Dustin Jacoby. Once his game falls apart, he's noticeably tired. He gets beat up in the second round. He does catch a second win in the third. He does come back a little bit. You can make the argument that he actually won the fight straight up, just winning the first and the third round. The judges tend to have it all over the place. One guy's got a 10-8 round and then having him losing the next 2 to Jacoby, so it's a draw. One guy's got him winning the first 2 rounds, has him winning straight up, no 10-8 for whatever reason. The other guy's got it, Cutelaba winning the first, Jacoby winning second and third. So scores are all over the place, but it's a consensus draw. To me, it was that he actually persevered a little bit for the first time. He didn't just completely crumple away. And mind you, he's fighting a lesser guy than Magomed Ankalaev or Glover Teixeira or Jared Cannonier. You see, the theme there is that when he loses, it's usually to these upper echelon level guys. So one thing about this, guys, the running joke, at least for me anyways, is just like Moldovan supplements out the ace, okay? This guy shows up green to the weigh-ins, freaking out. He's a commission suspension and fine just waiting to happen.
They've changed
You're not allowed
rules.
to touch these guys. Yeah,
They literally changed the weigh-in rules because of him.
Yeah, because him and Jeremy, well, Steven's whip got some whiplash off. But yeah, this guy is like, he's just an absolute wild man. And yes, he's from Moldova, and he's only 6'1" at 205, but he packs it in thick. And so you see a little bit of a change in the Jacoby fight, but it's more of the same. And so after the Dustin Jacoby fight, he goes to Extreme Couture, right? He's been in Las Vegas now for a number of months, and you can check the stuff online. He looks fucking lean. He's lean right out. And a lot of his exercises, like he'll post stuff to social media. It's not really him sparring, although he was sparring your boy, Francis Ngannou, and getting some rounds with some Albert Duraev, who fought just last night and looked like $1 million, right? He's been getting in some good quality work, but a lot of it's just him strength and conditioning, and it all seems just like speed and energy. So again, you'll see he looks super leaned out, and I'll imagine at the weigh-ins tomorrow, he's still good, or on Friday, my bad. He'll come on the scales, he'll make his 205 pounds. I just got a feeling that he's carrying a little less muscle, and he's going to be built for a little more explosion. So I think that he's got an excellent coaching staff and training partners around him now. If they can focus in just a little bit of that raw energy, he's got multiple ways to beat Devin Clark. First of all, he is the better striker. He throws the bigger heat. As far as technically, yeah, he's not a great technical striker, but he can get away with that from just that sheer power. But Devin Clark likes to grind on these guys and potentially take them down. And with Cutelaba, I mean, he's a European Sambo champion. The guy is extremely strong. He's got great hips on him. The key is tiring him out. And so Alonzo Menifield won that first round against Devin Clark and then gassed down. We expect Cutelaba to do the same thing, but Cutelaba is like a lot snappier than Alonzo Menifield. You know, he'll throw big, he'll back you up. He's got much better grappling, better takedown defense. And let's not forget, Devin Clark has 5 pro losses. All 5 pro losses coming inside the distance. So you put a little pressure, you put a little heat on this guy, I do actually think he'll kind of break a little. The flip side to that, because you're totally right about that live betting opportunity, the flip side to that is he's not a finisher at all, Devin Clark. He has to grind you out. He has not finished an opponent. Actually, the last time he finished an opponent would have been 2016 when his opponent broke his hand and the doctor called it off because of a broken hand, or he called it off himself, right? The last time he cleanly beat someone was February of 2015 when he rear naked choked an 0-0 opponent. All of his victories are him grinding these guys up against the cage, and all of his losses are the opponents putting some pressure on him and breaking him. And so it depends what category do you think Cutelaba falls in on. I think that if he comes out as his same crazy wild man self, he could get that first round finish. I think if he comes in a little bit more tame and can spread that over 2 rounds, all he needs to do is secure 2 rounds. Why? Because Devin Clark hasn't shown a propensity to finish guys in the third. He hasn't showed a propensity to finish guys at all. If you're up 2 rounds going into a third round, Devin Clark, historically, you're good. You're good. And that's what we're going to need out of Cutelaba. He will win the first round. He may lose the third round. It's going to be key to win that second. And the shape he's been looking at, him being at Extreme Couture, I think that instead of being a 7.5-minute fighter, like you mentioned, I think maybe he's a 9-minute fitter now. And that 9 minutes secures us 2 rounds and we're good. So the pick will be Ion Cutelaba. But like anytime that you get on a Cutelaba selection, get ready for a sweat, my man, because it's a greasy prospect.
Yeah, round three could get very, very dicey for you. And like I would probably just bet him straight, like, yeah, I would bet the minus 145 rather than like him by knockout is like plus 110. Just not enough meat on the bone to step it up there, in my opinion. You know, like, yeah, that knockout prop takes up a whole bunch of his win equity. But I think Devin Clark can go to decision. I guess he has lost pretty much everything when he, like, inside the distance when he loses, but
against good guys, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when it's, you know, minus 140 to basically plus 100, it's like they're not really giving you much of a reason to take that prop. Just take it straight, in my opinion. All right, my order here is a little bit different than Tapology is currently. There's been some moving parts on this card. Nickolas Motta takes on Cameron VanCamp, minus 310 Motta, plus 245 VanCamp. Who you got here?
VanCamp's coming on a short notice, and even though he looks like he's okay, I just think it's going to be a lot to overcome against a decent enough prospect in Nickolas Motta. So Motta originally supposed to take on, he was supposed to take on Damir Hadzovic. That fight fell through. He gets rebooked against Jim Miller. Now Miller's out. He's getting this Cameron VanCamp. He looks pretty solid enough. He's a very well-rounded Brazilian, good grappling, good striking. I actually like his striking, pretty snappy. The one thing that gives you like the pause for concern on him would be his own personal durability. He's not the most durable guy going. His losses show. His last loss was a first-round knockout to Robert Hale. Prior to that, he's got a first-round knockout loss to Antonio Carlos Ribeiro, and then he was a member of Tough Brazil Season 4, where he was choked out by the eventual favorite, or the eventual winner anyways, in Glyco Fraka in the second. So yeah, if you get to this guy, you can chin check him, you can rock him, you can hurt him, but he actually fights legitimate prospects, has done an excellent job on the CFFC regional scene of beating the likes of Joe Selecki, who you now see in the UFC, and actually doing quite well for himself in the UFC. And then he was on the Contender Series against Joseph Lowry. So I think that there's a lot you can like from him. I believe he's also at Factory X Muay Thai. Same camp as Anthony Smith, a ton of great prospects into that gym. Pretty much just good guys all over, good wrestlers, good strikers, a great gym to work with. And of course, being at altitude, I think he'll have the cardio. So he was getting ready for Jim Miller, a guy that was likely going to go out there and try to give him an old-fashioned grinding. I think VanCamp, it's a big jump. It's a big jump from fighting guys on like a small town regional scene in Indiana to jumping into the bright lights of the UFC. And I give him all the props in the world. But again, his wins are to fairly low level guys. The biggest name on his record would be Dan Stipkin, who the casual fan probably does not remember, but the hardcore fan remembers because Stephen Wonderboy Thompson deaded him with a head kick in the UFC once upon a time. Craig Eckelberg is actually out of Rufus Sport, and he was the guy that CM Punk would get all of his rounds in. He was like the guy that they were like, if you can beat Craig, you can win a fight in the UFC, both of which proved to be a lie. And then his last time out against this Kenny Goudreau, he beats him, and then he's a 10-7, middle of the range opponent. So this is going to be a big jump up for him. He's 15-5. He's well-traveled enough. He's had some ups and downs. I would love to say that I know more about him, but to be honest, I just limited tape research. I feel like this is definitely a Nickolas Motta fight. Motta is a big enough favorite, obviously all for a reason. But I will admit, because the Contender Series, 15 fights on this one, it being a short notice replacement, I haven't jumped in as deep as I'd like to. So instead of telling you Motta's a top ticket play this week, which he likely is, ever so slightly right now, maybe he's like a second row ticket play. I think he matches up extremely good in this spot, and I would expect him to go get the win. Sorry, the last thing I do want to mention, is I mentioned his notable wins, right? Well, he's got this notable loss, and it's 2 years ago, and it gets Bobby Volker. Now, again, Bobby Volker, UFC veteran, fought Robbie Lawler back in the day, Strikeforce veteran. If you've ever met Volker or seen him fight in the last little bit while, he's shot to bits. Like, no reflexes, no movement. One of the slower guys you've seen. He was 40 years old at the time. And like he grinded him up and won a decision. So I don't think this VanCamp kid is an elite level prospect as much as a warm body willing to jump in there on short notice. And Motta at 28 years old seemingly is getting better day to day and earned the contract the hard way, right? He was on tough. He got eliminated. He has to go back to the regional scene. He fights some dope dudes on the New Jersey regional scene, which is one of the best regional scenes in the world, and then makes his way back to the UFC via winning a fight on the Contender Series. It's all just building out towards Motta. So I hate to go with the the common thought process this week, but it's the short notice replacement is just in too deep, a little too soon.
Yeah, that more or less makes sense. I watched some tape on VanCamp. It looks like he's going out there real early, trying to find submissions. It was really funny on like the B2. What was the name of this from B2 Fighting Series 128 when he's fighting Kenny Goudreau. They're like, oh, this may be the last time we ever see Cameron VanCamp. This is the greatest fighter that we've ever had in the promotion. It was kind of hilarious from a regional scene standpoint. But the guy goes out. In Motta's defense, is like, what was he probably getting ready for? Jim Miller coming out real early, trying to secure takedowns and looking for submissions. Now he's getting, a Walmart brand. Jim Miller, very likely in this spot. I bet the under. VanCamp's coming in on short notice. He likes going out there, finding the submissions very quickly in his fights. I don't know how his gas tank really holds up. It seems like Motta has been finished a bunch of times in his career. I took the under 2.5 rounds, minus 110 was my angle on this. If you like a YOLO play that I'm not gonna do anything with it until I see weigh-ins on this travesty of a fight. But I thought maybe, just maybe, because the real only path I see for VanCamp is that if he, while they're dry early on, he's able to grab them and find a submission super early. I see he's plus 800 to win by submission. I think that's probably the path I would go if I were to bet that side. Minus 310 for Contender Series guys is just we've seen it too many times. The level of competition coming off of the Contender Series these days is nothing special. So you got to be very careful laying the wood on these types of things. But yeah, I think the under 2.5 rounds, I got it at minus 110. I see it's minus 120 now. It's probably going to continue to move as the week goes on. That would be my suggested play for this fight. Moving on down, we've got Ariane Lipski taking on Mandy Bohm. Minus 120 Lipski, plus 100 Bohm. Who you got?
You know what? Depends what kind of shape Mandy Bohm is, but she could make this look real easy, or she could make this real difficult. The key here is that the layoff. I don't know how much the layoff's going to affect her. When she last fought, we'll talk about Mandy Bohm, because she's a slight underdog, right? We got her a slight underdog.
Plus 100.
Fuck me, plus 100. That's an underdog. First underdog of the night. Woof.
The people,
last time she
out
fought,
there, people are betting Lipski.
Yeah, that's fair. Here's my thing on Bohm, right? Which again, the layoff's gonna play out pretty big here. But the last time we saw her fight, well, she's at SBG Ireland, coached by John Kavanagh. The gyms obviously hasn't been all that hot since one notorious Conor McGregor is really the only notable guy that ever came out of there. But yeah, the gym hasn't been on the best run going, but she looks good. So she's undefeated 5-0 in Germany, and they bring her out to Montreal, Quebec to take on the undefeated Canadian fighter and Jade Masson Wong. And Jade's actually Marcel Barrio's fiance, right? She's well trained. She's pretty good shape, pretty tough enough fighter. And she looked really good in that spot, I thought. Bohm did. Controlled, won every single round, got the rear naked choke, finished, wins the TKO title, immediately signs with Bellator. fights once with Bellator versus Great Ekhu, who's actually also a TKO veteran. And man, her striking looks good. She's nice, long, great right hand. That jab, nice extension on it, lands over and over. She does tend to fight with her hands a tad bit low. But again, if you notice some of these SPG Ireland fighters, it's all about like that flow state. So sometimes they will leave their hands low, almost inviting you to fight or like to throw something so they can counter and kind of move off of it. Good kicks. I thought she looked really good in the first round against Greit. Second and third round, she starts to slow down a little bit. She starts to get tired, but she does have underrated wrestling as well. I mean, she's able to get Greit down. When she does take her down, she's able to have some success on top. I don't love her particularly fighting off of her back, but again, has the means of getting back up and then eventually settles for a decision victory in that spot over Greit. So cardio didn't look great, but knock off a little ring rust. And this girl's actually going to be quite kind of decent. Then the pandemic happened. So what happened was Bellator signed a ton of European talent and they're having these Euro Series events. Well, now that they can't even get over there, what's the point? So they released a large majority of this roster. She had actually requested, hey, the UFC will sign me if you'll give me my walking papers. So she requested her own walking papers from Bellator, got them, and now signs for the UFC, and they're debuting her on a main card, right? So they've got a little bit of faith in her anyways. They were interested in signing her, and they scooped her up the second that Bellator released her, which, come on, you never see that, right? It's usually the other way around, let's be real. But the key here is that she has not fought in 1 year. So I got a feeling that it's going to take her a little bit to get going and that she's probably going to get a little bit tired. And so if Lipski is able to push some type of pace on her, then, maybe. But the thing is, when has Lipski pushed any type of pace over anybody ever? And so tapes judging here, it's actually very frustrating. She looks to be low output. I mean, she's supposed to be the violence queen. She's got this, credited Muay Thai background. And when she came over from KSW, it just seemed like she was a future world champion or at least a title challenger. And she's been a complete dud as far as the UFC goes. But it's hard to gauge how much output she could have in a pure striking battle because she's always getting taken down. She gives up takedown against Joanne Calderwood. She gave up 2 takedowns against Molly McCann, 2 takedowns against Isabel de Padua. She gave up a takedown against Antonina Shevchenko and 2 takedowns to Montana De La Rosa. The last 2 are the most embarrassing because Antonina Shevchenko and Montana De La Rosa, are these top level grapplers? Is this top level ground and pound? Like, I don't know, but they both take her out, just getting her to the ground. The fights that do stay standing, like the Padua fight, she don't look good. She actually got, in 15 minutes, she landed 31 significant strikes against Padua, right? In the other 2 fights, they're losses. But again, it's always she's getting taken down. So I want to give her the benefit of the doubt. But I don't think she's got the volume. I don't think she's that good of a striker. Her takedown defense is very poor, and her grappling is suspect. And quite honestly, Mandy Bohm's going to be just as good of a striker. At least she's going to have a lot of success using that jab. Jabs work so good against Muay Thai stylists because they're predicated on their kicks, and they have these tall stand-up, a little bit heavy on the lead leg, not moving, not cutting footwork, and not moving their head. So the jab's going to work a lot, and eventually Lipski gets a little bit, attempts to get a little aggressive and close the distance. The takedown is going to be there for Mandy Bohm. So if she shows up in shape and she can fight at least 2 of these 3 rounds, I think she can secure the victory here. For Lipski, it's like, shame on, I don't know, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. She looks fraudulent, right? At first, it was like, dude, Joanne Calderwood's dope. I'm going to give her a pass there. Then it was like, Molly McCann. Well, you know what?
Twice.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. We're going to give her a pass there. She beats Isabel Padua, and it's not a good looking fight, man. She beats Luana Carolina in a first round knee bar. Still not a very good looking fight, even in victory. No. And then gets completely thrashed out of there by top 10, top 15 opposition on the basis of a non-existent ground game, right? Well, what happened to Luana Carolina? What happened to the knee bar? It's like, no, because it's fraudulent. It's all fraudulent. So I'm not running to bet on a fraudulent fight. I really am not. So Mandy Bohm, there's a little bit more unknowns there. It's a debut. She hasn't fought in a year, this and that, but she's got the skills to get the job done. If she's able to put it together, I think she does. So I'm going to go with Mandy Bohm.
Yeah, I like where your head's at there. The big problem that I see, I mean, rewatching the Shevchenko fight, it's like Shevchenko's only credited for 1 takedown. But that's because in round 2, she basically pulls guard. Yeah, Lipski pulls guard in round 2 and then just gets like full out Habib. Like, Antonina doesn't make anybody. Like, think about what Roxy did to her on the mat. It was the exact opposite. And Antonina was literally just pounding away on her. And it was basically like a mercy stoppage because she had no answers for her down there. And Antonina Shevchenko has been exploited time and time again on the mat by pretty much everybody else. So yeah, that ground game seems very, very suspect. She was as you were saying, the violence queen, the Muay Thai. I don't know. What I did like from what I saw from Mandy Bohm, and I expect this is a low level fight. I saw a lot of good like cage control work from her against Ikut. Is that how you say it in Bellator?
Yeah, great knees in the clinch.
Yeah, which maybe she eats some elbows when she's in that range, but she seemed pretty strong in that range. I think she's the side for me. I can't bet anybody who gets absolutely throttled in the wrestling department by Antonina Shevchenko. Just not gonna happen. So I'm with you. I haven't put money on it. I'll wait for weigh-ins. Oh, another thing. You said great jab for Bohm. She's got 3-inch reach advantage, so she should be able to keep this thing at range and utilize that at will. All right, moving on down, we got Arman Tsarukyan taking on Christos Giagos. Minus 800 for Tsarukyan, plus 550 for Giagos. What are we gonna say? Arman Tsarukyan, he is a super, super talent in the making. The guy is 24 years old. Every single fight, I mean, he's not exactly a finisher by any stretch of the imagination. Every single fight that he's had in the UFC has went the distance. But, you know, losing to Islam Makhachev, who is like the sleeper for lightweight champion of the world right now in that division, no real shame in that. And then beating some solid guys at their own game, being able to grapple with Davi Ramos and not being scared to go down there. That's huge for the learning ability for him. The line is super juiced, but it's like Tsarukyan looks like the goods. This looks like a guy who is going to be a problem in this division for the next 5 to 10 years. Like he seems incredibly, incredibly talented. Giagos obviously coming in. What is he? He's a solid wrestler. Striking is a work in progress. Obviously, Sean Soriano. I ended up casting Giagos by sub against Soriano, and that round one, I mean, I was just like, what a stupid bet. I'm such an idiot for betting this. It ended up coming through, but round one, he was getting absolutely torched on the feet. So the line is super juiced, but he was one of the legs, and it's been continuing to climb this week. But he's one of the legs of a 3-leg parlay I've got, because I'm just trying to get some action on things here, Cody. So Tsarukyan's the pick. He's a parlay piece. He wins a lot of fights by decision. Can Giagos survive? If you really want to attack this fight, you're probably going to have to find, the method of victory for Tsarukyan. But I imagine Tsarukyan is your pick as well.
Listen, Christos Giagos, my boy, just not on this rare occasion. Because, what he does well is almost like what Arman Tsarukyan does a lot better. Christos Giagos is freakishly strong for the division, and he's able to get these takedowns. He did wrestle collegiately. He's a good wrestler, not a great wrestler, but he's so goddamn strong. Like, you see the physical shape of the guy. He gets a hold of you. He will rang you to the ground. The problem is that his top control, okay. Submission game is pretty okay. But he exerts a ton of power getting this fight to the ground. And when he's unable to secure top control and his opponent pops back up, he'll exert equal amount of energy in ripping you back to the ground. That type of game plan can only work for so long. And you do see him routinely gas out once the takedowns fail to materialize. And he's just kind of a fish out of water, really. His last 2 fights, he's looked, again, against Carlton Maness, this is a walk in the park, right? You're taking on a guy from Alaska who is not going to be able to stop your takedowns, is not going to be able to compete with you. This is a walk in the park. He looks amazing in the first round. He looks pretty okay in the second round. Third round, he's gas. He's actually holding on for dear life against Carlton Maness. Eventually gets a takedown, is able to secure it. But, I mean, it's low level. Now you got to think Sean Soriano. Sean Soriano's coming back to the UFC. I believe he was 0-3 in his initial run. He is considered a pure striker with a very bad takedown and submission defense game. And he's undersized. He's coming in on short notice. And you're right, dude. He kicked the shit out of Giagos in the first. Thankfully, Soriano got tired in the second, and Giagos was able to take over. So even though he's able to win fights, it's never pretty for the most part. It's a lot of just him work, and he gets extremely gassed out. Mizuta Harada fight, he scores 5 takedowns. The Damir Hadzovic fight, he scores 6 takedowns. So again, his game's always predicated in victory on him getting these takedowns. What are the odds that he's going to go out there and take down Arman Tsarukyan for 15 minutes, let alone once, let alone maybe twice? Not going to happen. I really don't see it happening. Tsarukyan's not only one of these. Listen, when he first came, you mentioned the Islam Makhachev fight. It's not just what kind of madman makes his UFC debut against Islam Makhachev. It's like what kind of mad kid does it. He's like 21. He's like 22 years old, making that kind of debut and goes the distance with Islam Makhachev and actually manages one takedown on him. Since then, they've done him no favors. Olivier Aubé-Mercier was a top 15 contender. He's over in PFL now and doing pretty okay. Davi Ramos was an ADCC competitor, a high-level BJJ black belt. Matt Frivola is super underrated, got skills all over the place and trains out of a great gym. And you see like he's already young into his career, able to handle these guys. Now, pandemic happens. He was going to Tiger Muay Thai, not able to get to Thailand. So, well, I guess I'll go do the next best thing. ATT, baby. He's been at American Top Team. I think he's working with some of the best guys. Matt Brown in particular is taking a real shining to him, will be in his corner. And I think that he's just making a lot of progress. I could see him going out there and scoring his first TKO victory in the UFC, maybe even a submission victory in the UFC. I say that because although he's been fighting some decent, durable guys, so even though they're always decisions, doesn't mean he hasn't got anything. And with Giagos, like when he gets tired, and he starts to get desperate. And he's not going to want to strike with Tsarukyan for all that long. He's not going to want to counter wrestle for all that long. And if he tries to offensively wrestle this guy, he's just going to burn his arms out. If he's a sitting duck in the third round, a TKO would be possible. A Tsarukyan third round finish could be possible. And the only reason you're even contemplating those options is because at 8-1, there's no meat on the bone. People like such as yourself that looked at this line beforehand, that could get a better price on it, that could add it to parlay material. Genius. And it was just like the people that were able to get Vitor Belfort at minus 130. And then people doubled down when it was minus 160, and people tripled down at minus 185. It goes off at 240, and it's, the easiest money you'll ever make. So yeah, sometimes when you just get on the line beforehand, you find this tremendous value. And I honestly don't see any one area where Christos Giagos wins this fight. He could win any one area of this fight 45 seconds or a minute at a time. But in order to go out there and do it hard for 15, I just really don't see it. So yeah, 8-1. I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of like Mo Miller from last night in Contender Series. It opens up fair, but by the time it gets to fight time, you're going to have to parlay it with other picks that you like. And even then, it's not adding a ton. So I got Tsarukyan, and I got a feeling that this thing ends up being a Tsarukyan later finish, but he is a decision fighter, so I've got to give him that. Now, last but not least, imagine if you're Matt Frivola, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
What were you saying? Do you think it would be sub or TKO?
I feel like it would be a TKO. I don't know. What has he got traditionally? Traditionally, he has been more of a TKO guy. He does show rear naked chokes
early on his rear naked chokes earlier on in his career.
He's actually fairly well-rounded in the sense that his victories in the UFC have been by decisions, but prior to that, he's got 5 wins by knockout and 5 wins by submission in 16 pro victories. So yeah, he could finish you with a rear naked choke, seems to be his preferred method, a couple guillotines along the way, or beat you with that TKO. And yeah, I think that would be the plan. I think it would just be beat on this guy and finish him late. And you know what? This is actually quite interesting enough. If you look at these finishes on his record, so his last finish was his fight prior to his UFC debut. It's a third round head kick, right? His prior finish before that is a third round spinning back kick to the body. And then those rear naked chokes are all in the first round, right? But he can carry some power later round and get a third round finish. His last 2 victories inside the distance were actually, coincidentally enough, both third round finishes. And with Giagos, it's not like he's not durable. It's that he's completely gassed out. Wow, what human being can defend themselves when their body's not responding, right? And that's kind of him. He leaves it out there. I would think preparing for this fight, it's going to be an ego check. Like he might think in his head, like, I'll take this guy down. But like when it fails to materialize, he'll have a huge adrenaline dump on top of him getting tired naturally. So yeah, if you got him early on parlay material, badass. By the time we film the show Wednesday, there's no meat on the bone.
It's gonna keep moving. He'll be a minus 1,000 by the time Saturday rolls around.
Yeah. Well, my last thing is the Matt Frivola fight. People were actually making a case for Frivola. They were like, "Yo, man, don't sleep on this guy. He's a grinder. He keeps coming." And I remember great narrative was they're like, "Dude, he works out on the daily with Aljamain Sterling and Merab Dvalishvili. You don't think he's gonna be ready to wrestle?" It's like, no, I got taken down 10 times. Like Tsarukyan's one of these guys, like you can spend an entire camp working with the best guys to keep this fight standing. It's like, it don't matter. It don't matter. He's strong. He's only 24. Every fight he should be getting a little bit better. Giagos is tapped out. This is where he's at. He can win fights, but it's got to be against the Mizuta Haradas or the Sean Sorianos. Even that one was dicey. Or the Carlton Manesses of the world. That's the level he can defeat. Tsarukyan figures to be a little higher than that.
All right, so it sounds like we both kind of agree. We think finish is probably more likely. Like Giagos will falter down the stretch. Tsarukyan inside the distance is plus 150 at DraftKings Sportsbook if that's your jam.
Week 1 may be over, but the season is just getting started at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off Week 2, DraftKings is giving new customers $200 in free bets instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up, because you don't want to miss this. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any Week 2 game to receive $200 in free bets instantly. If Sportsbook is not available in your state, DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP to receive $200 in free bets when you place $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
All right, moving on down, we got Joaquin Buckley taking on Antonio Arroyo. Joaquin Buckley, a minus 200 favorite. Arroyo, plus 170. Buckley was everybody's darling after his knockout of Impa Kasanganay. That spinning back kick, with all these NFTs and stuff, I imagine somebody's going to have like the NBA Top Shot or for UFC. It's just like that Joaquin Buckley one will be kind of cool. Who knows how much it'll be worth because Tsarukyan sent that guy's brain into another universe early on. So I think we kind of saw that. And we saw it, I guess, with Kevin Holland. We gave him a little bit of a pass because he was giving up so much in reach. And he came in on short notice and it was a decent account for himself. But there could be some durability issues here. So that is my concern about laying the wood at minus 200 on Joaquin Buckley here. But Arroyo hasn't really given us any reason to be excited. I mean, at least going the distance with Andre Muniz looks half decent in retrospect, but he wasn't exactly doing all that much damage or anything in that fight. There hasn't been really anything to be too excited about from Arroyo. His back's against the wall in this spot. I guess my pick would be Buckley, but I am worried about. I think that there is durability issues here, and who knows if Arroyo gets him to the ground. He hasn't really been tested in terms of his jiu-jitsu down there yet. So buyer beware. I don't have anything on Buckley. I'm kind of staying away from him. What about you?
Yeah, I feel like the UFC is probably trying to bounce back Joaquin Buckley. You're right. It became everybody's darling with the sweetest KO of all times, because up until that point, it had been Edson Barbosa over Terry Edom, locked up that number one spot for greatest KO of all times. And then just like any record, just like any cool moment, someone eventually has to come over and outdo you. And that Buckley KO has got to be the sweetest KO I've ever seen. So instantly he becomes like a viral sensation. And then they match him up against Jordan Wright for a very specific reason. Go out and do some cool shit again. He knocks out Jordan Wright pretty senseless. Thing is, he didn't really look all that good in the first round against Jordan Wright before clipping him late. And then in the second round, Buddy was concussed, so he put him away. So now you got Alessio Di Chirico. And prior to Abdul Razak Al Hassan completely changing this narrative, but Di Chirico is actually quite a durable guy. And Buckley, if he wasn't going to be able to go get that knockout, what was going to happen in those later rounds? And I don't think anybody saw him going out there and getting head kicked. But That's why MMA is a sick bitch, you know? What goes around comes around. You can be the highlight reel winner one day and you can be on the receiving end the next. And unfortunately, I think it was like a slice of humble pie for him. But I don't know. You remember he had that bad reputation. James Krause was talking shit about him. He just goes to these gyms and beat guys up. Like, it's not like it's changed. It's not like his demeanor's changed. It's not like his morale's gone any lower. I know he's coming off a knockout loss, but he's still on social media offering up dudes $1,000 to like spar him and beat him. Like, he's pretty full of himself. He's only 27. I do think he's getting better. As far as his fights in the UFC, Paul, he's never given up a takedown. Mind you, he's taken on Kevin Holland, Impa Kasanganai, Jordan Wright, and Alicia DiChirico. None of those guys really figured to attempt to take him down. And for that reason, I couldn't tell you how good he is off of his back at this stage in his game. It's got to be something he's working on, but I think more often than not, he's 5'10" as a middleweight. He's got a low center of gravity. He comes forward. He'll be able to stuff those takedowns and just sprawl and brawl guys. He's got heavy power in his hands. It's whether or not he can pace himself. Does he need that first round knockout? Does he need, or is he going to get tired after that? Is he going to be susceptible? All great questions. So coming into any spot where he's rebounding after his knockout loss, is I would really like to see how is he going to be able to take a punch. But against Antonio Arroyo, I don't really think Arroyo is that guy. He's more so a submission guy, which would mean he needs to offensively take this fight to the ground. And to be honest, I'm not 100% sure that Arroyo does take this fight to the ground. I know what you're saying. It was impressive enough he went the distance with Andre Muniz, right? But he was even money against Andre Muniz. And what you saw in that fight is that Muniz has gone on to bigger and better things and looks legit. And Arroyo kind of hasn't done anything. He's just twiddling away. So he does take a short notice fight against Deron Winn at 195 pounds. And he looked about as short notice gets. Like, it looked like he rolled off the couch. He was completely exhausted 2 to 3 minutes into the first round. Completely exhausted. And Deron Winn had his way against him. And by the way, because I cashed on Deron Winn that night, Antonio Arroyo was a minus 180 favorite. That's how far removed people were from the Deron Winn train. This guy's a 2-1 favorite and has like 2 minutes of cardio. It was just not looking good at all.
So my worry here is 12 times.
Well, and Deron Winn's a good wrestler, so I'll give him that. But it was like the takedowns just became so easy. He just like, oh, I want to take you down now. And Arroyo, who on the scales and even in the fight is twice the size of him, just couldn't muster up anything at all. So it's better now that he's back at 185. It's better now that he's had a full camp. That's all well and good. It's just I don't see him offensively getting this fight to the ground, and I don't see him winning the striking battle. And so therefore, I feel like he's in for kind of could be a short night, could be a long night, but not a victorious night anyways. And so Buckley at minus 200, I'd want a better bounce back price from a guy, but I feel like the UFC knows what they're doing. We want a guy that you can go out there, let your hands go, maybe score a highlight reel finish, but at the very least, not just somebody who's a D1 All-American, not somebody who's got crazy good durability, and not someone who's got big flashy power that might be able to take advantage of your questionable chin, right? He's got none of those things. He doesn't have the wrestling, right? He's not a striker, and he's not some cast iron durable guy that's going to drag you into deeper waters. So I gotta go with Buckley. Is he as trustworthy as he once was? Maybe not, but I'll give him a pass in the DiChirico fight. As a head kick, he obviously did not see coming, and the one you don't see coming tends to knock you out unconscious. And it was a head kick, so shit happens. Hopefully, the kid's able to get on from that. And again, at 27 years old, I do think he'll continuously make at least marginal improvements and get a little bit better.
Yeah, Buckley's 5 inches shorter, but somehow has a 2.5-inch reach advantage
There you go.
over Arroyo, who I guess T-Rex arms for the middleweight division. Moving on down, we got Tafon and Nchukwi taking on slow Mike Rodriguez, minus 130 Nchukwi, plus 110 Rodriguez. The real question here, Cody, is who is the slower?
He stole it. Yeah, he stole my bit.
Both of these guys are. One guy's nickname is Slow. So, he's at least, self-admittedly slow. But Tafon and Nchukwi, I bought into the hype a little bit when he first came into the UFC. I thought, this guy has some serious promise. He struggled against Jin Young Park. The takedowns were just there. Pretty much whenever he wanted it, he was able to get it. Park, that is. I guess he only had two takedowns in that spot, but it was. Am I thinking of the right fight? Am I thinking of a different fight? Was it the body lock trip that he was getting? No, I feel like he body lock tripped and took him down, held him down. I got to rewatch that, obviously, but kind of learned that day that Yeah, he's just such a slow dude that he's gonna get exploited by some guys with some legitimate skills. Luckily for him, Mike Rodriguez isn't exactly a big threat for him. I think the power advantage significantly in the favor of Tafon and Nchukwi. They're back up at. It's funny that he moved down to 185 for his last fight, and then now he's back up to 205. So weigh-ins definitely have to be watched. That's kind of questionable. Do you know anything about what's going on there? Like, why did he decide that he was going down to 185? He made 185, and then now he's back up at 205 for this fight. Like, are you not committing to that division? What's the case here?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's only 6 feet tall. He did actually start off his career as a heavyweight, weighing in like 215, 225, and then he came down to light heavyweight, and then he came down to middleweight, and he can make middleweight. Here's the problem, Paul, and you know this better than anybody. Remember, like when 45 first came to the UFC, and all these lightweights were like, "I'm just gonna go down." It's like, oh, these 45s are a lot faster than you guys, and you still see it to this day. You know, an old middleweight will be like, "I'm gonna make welterweight for the first time." An old welterweight, I'm gonna go down to lightweight for the first time. It's you're searching for more success in a different weight class, but the guys below you are almost always faster. Very few guys drop a weight class and become faster, right? In his case, he's way too fucking slow to fight pretty much at any level, but certainly at 185 pounds. And that Jung Young Park fight was a huge example of that. Jung Young Park beats him to the punch every single time. He snaps him with the jab every single time. He's just twice as fast as this man. At 205, they're going to be slower. At heavyweight, they're going to be even slower than that. So his frame, even though he can make 185 pounds, he carries a ton of muscle. And I can see him at 205 pounds, maybe having a little bit left over. If you go back and you look at the Jung Young Park fight as well, it's like he tires out. You know, all that muscle takes a lot of energy. And one would have to wonder if the weight cut's not hindering that, right? The jump from 205 to 85 is 20 pounds. You know, it's not like lightweight to featherweight, featherweight to bantamweight, bantamweight to flyweight with this 10-pound increments. This is a 20-pound jump. So he looks so bad in that last fight. I would actually probably chalk it up to the fact that he had a bad weight cut. He's too big for the weight class. He was way too slow as a result. And moving up to 205 would probably be better suited for him. Mike Rodriguez, as you mentioned, he's self-titled slow Mike, but he's going to be looking like a lightning Mike in this fight because he's going to be much faster than Nchukwi. He's going to beat him to the punch. He's actually, in my opinion, a better striker. He's got better volume. The one X factor here is
durability.
I think not even so much that. I think Nchukwi probably takes him down. And if he does take him down, he's going to fucking maul him. It's whether or not he does. The reason I say that is if you look back at like the William Knight fight, his grappling looks pretty solid. The Montalvo fight, while, you know, Al's in his face and stays standing and he deads him with a head kick, not great. The Jamie Pickett fight's a striking affair. The Jung Young Park fight, when he starts losing the striking exchanges, he actually does attempt to get the fight to the ground, does score one takedown. He comes from Lloyd Irvin's gym. Lloyd Irvin, he's got decent grappling in his own right. It's that you see him as a guy with a Muay Thai base and you see him as a big, heavy power striker with a big head kick that I think people kind of sleep on his ground game. It's not great, but a poor ground game looks like a world-class ground game when you're fighting somebody with no ground game, and that's slow Mike Rodriguez. Like, he's so bad on the ground, Paul. So yeah, he's 6'4", and he's got an 82-inch reach, and he's got, you know, those weapons are all great standing. Once this guy hits the ground, man, his legs are too damn long. He can't generate space. He can't explode back up to his feet. He largely just lies there and gets grinded on. And guys have their ways. He had Ed Herman out twice, and Ed Herman still defeats him with a Kimura. Gets outstruck like 37-1 in the round and submits him with a Kimura. Okay, it was a fluke. They should have stopped the fight anyways. The Daniel Marquez fight, even more embarrassing. Marquez gets those takedowns easy money and just zaps the life out of this man until he eventually rear naked chokes him in the second round. That's all bad for business. That's all bad news. And so Mike Rodriguez wins this fight if it's a stand-up battle. He's faster, he's longer, and he's actually got some tight technique. I'll admit durability, kind of a bit of an issue, but it seems to me like it's more so. I know he did get knocked out by Dong Jung. It seems to me more so you take this guy down, that's his kryptonite. You'll be able to beat on him. Tafon Nchukwi seems like a striker, but he's got that ability to take this fight to the ground, and I think he'd be wise to do it. To be honest, this thing's a 50-50 dog or pass type situation. Mike Rodriguez is a +110 underdog, so I am going to end up actually taking Mike Rodriguez. takedowns.
All right, we got Raquel Pennington taking on Pannie Kianzad. Oh, yeah, to repeat from earlier, I was thinking of Da Ong Jung versus William Knight, so I was completely way off. That was the body lock takedowns, 8 takedowns.
All day.
Embarrassing. All right, moving on down. We got Raquel Pennington taking on Pannie Kianzad. Pennington is a -130 favorite. Kianzad can be had for +110. Who you got here?
Well, you know what? In the Apex, Raquel Pennington could make this thing an absolute bog. And if she does, and she just chooses to grind her up against the cage, I could see her getting the victory here. If Pannie's able to use this much improved takedown defense, stuff some of those takedowns, keep this thing in the open space, I think she's a better striker. I think she's a better striker than Raquel Pennington. She's got better versatility. You know, she'll mix in the kicks. She'll mix in different angles. Pennington's tough. She's always been tough. She comes forward. She mixes it up with you. She's a bit of a brawler. She's got okay wrestling. She's more of a generalist in most senses of skills. Like she's an okay striker, an okay grappler, an okay wrestler, good durability. It's just one of those Lauren Murphy type styles where she stays in your face, she grinds on you, and eventually when you get tired, you fall into her domain, into her world. I'll fully admit I had this girl written off in the sense that she attempted to quit in the after the fourth round against Nunez. It's like, I don't want to be here anymore. Her corner pushes her out. She gets finished in that fifth round. And then she just looked mentally off after that. The Jermaine Durandamy fight, I give her a pass in that fight because it's Durandamy, but she looked off. She looked just, not into it. The Aldana split decision, didn't look into it. The Holly Holm fight, off. But you know what? Something did click. She's a fighter. She wants to be there. She's training. She's self-motivated. And she came against Marion Renault, and she did exactly what you have to do against a mid-40 gym teacher, right? You got to go out there. You got to control the pace. You got to grind on her. You got to not get tired. And she did a good job of fighting in tight quarters, putting up some good volume, and giving her an old-fashioned grinding. That's Raquel Pennington at her best. That's what she's capable of. And she's capable of doing that to Pannie Kianzad as well. But, I was very impressed with Kianzad's ability, gassed, but her ability to keep Sinjara Eubanks off of her. She gave up those early takedowns, but eventually was able to keep the fight at range, keep the fight standing, uses knees to the inside, uses that longer reach, better striking, and eventually gets the job done. Against Alexis Davis, it wasn't nearly as pretty as it should have been, but you see big number out of her. So I don't know. It's another situation where it's a tight women's MMA fight. I wouldn't really want overly a whole lot of invested interest in it. On a 15-fight card, maybe this is one that swings by the wayside, but I would classify this one as a dog or pass situation. And again, you do have Kianzad as that +110 underdog. So gonna go ahead. I got 3 underdogs at this point, and for the record, we have a +100. Right, that was our first one. Well, we got Slow Mike Rodriguez as +110. We've got Pannie Kianzad as +110, and we got Mandy Bohm at +100. So the dog selections aren't exactly, big plus money signs, but those are close fights. They are all close fights, and I can see a very good case for the underdog. In this case, same thing. Pannie Kianzad gonna have to sprawl and brawl. That doesn't help that they're in a smaller cage. She won't have that distance. But if Pennington doesn't just commit to making this a boring fight and actually tries to mix it up with her, Pannie Kianzad will have her moments.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think at range, Kianzad, she's just throwing a lot more strikes. She's going over 100 significant strikes in her victories. Way over. She got hit a whole bunch against Alexis Davis, in fairness, as well. Pennington's going to barge forward, probably a lot of cage control, and try to win that way. I think when it goes to the judges' scorecards, you'll probably will be on Twitter, and people who bet Raquel Pennington will probably think that their Pennington bet should win, and people who bet Kianzad will think that Kianzad should win. So if it's going to be that close, I'm not even going to bet it, but if it's going to be that close, you take the plus money, I guess, in those spots. So I'll follow you along on that one. Pannie Kianzad +110 if I had to make a play. Tony Gravely takes on Nate Maness. Gravely -210. Maness +175. Who you got here?
Okay, full disclosure, sometimes on weekends, specifically Saturdays, I'd like to hang out in my own house, kitchen, and, I like to bake apple pies, right? I like to put all the ingredients together. Things are going good. And generally, one of these ingredients is just faulty or expired, and there's shit particles in it, and then there ends up being shit in my apple pie. There's a few times the pie smells delicious, looks to be intact. I put it right by the fucking windowsill to cool off, And Nate Maness will come over and shit in that thing because he's been killing me as far as this UFC run goes. It's just 2 fights in, but he pulls off these comebacks generally as the underdog. And listen, the Johnny Munoz Jr. fight, I thought he lost, right? I thought the first round got to be Johnny Munoz Jr.'s. The second round, I don't know. Listen, it's a close fight. I'm not going to be upset. Even though it's a unanimous decision, I'm not going to say I thought it should have been a split. It was a close fight. I just happen to think that Munoz won the close fight. And so whatever, no big deal. It wasn't like he was on everything. And then this Luke Sanders fight. Luke Sanders does it to me all the time. He's a notorious apple pie shitter, but
he's a serial apple pie shitter for Cody.
The biggest serial apple pie shitter that's ever been in the game. I got reverse Vince Pichel syndrome with this fucking guy, right? It just loses every time. Don't listen to me if I talk about Luke Sanders. And anyway, Sanders looks awesome against him in the first 4 minutes, and he clips him late. And then going into the second round, Sanders is tired. Sanders does the same bozo shit he always does, and Nate Maness is able to capitalize. But there's another pie that Nate Maness is able to go out there and ruin for me. So I got to stop overlooking the guy. He is fairly well-rounded. He's big for the weight class. He's a gamer. He's got 3 rounds cardio. He's got good power in his hands, although sometimes he doesn't set it up as much. I'd like to see some more combination punching out of him. But again, if he lands that one on the button, he's got that big power. His takedown defense is largely improved. His submission defense is pretty solid. And you see in that Sanders fight where he almost chokes him out twice, eventually sticks him the second time. It's like, yeah, he's still a work in progress. He's 30 years old. He is making improvements. And the biggest thing about him was before he came to the UFC, he had fought a lot of people, lower level guys in the Kentucky regional scene, and then came over to the TKO MMA organization in Quebec, where he looked good, but I would say against, regional level opposition. How does this guy make a transition to the UFC? And so far, so good. He's 2-0. He's been looking good. Tony Gravely should have the advantage here everywhere. Just like the one nagging thing in the back of my mind is that Tony Gravely has suspect cardio and Nate Maness just refuses to go away. So yeah, this would be a good live betting opportunity. I think if you were a Nate Maness backer, is that he could have dropped the first round. If he's able to stuff enough of those takedowns, cause Gravely to work, tire him out, and then somehow convince 2 of the 3 judges that he won the second, he's going to be in a live position to go out there and win the third round as well. This thing's going 15 minutes. It's going to be a good fight. It'd be a close. I think so. I really do think it is.
More likely than not.
Yeah. I mean, I think both guys are, if you look at Tony Gravely, he's got world-class losses. World-class losses to good guys. Manny Bermudez, UFC veteran. Rob Bajvili, tough guy. Patchy Mix is a Bellator standout. And Brett Johns, UFC 2 Bellator. And they're catching him with submissions generally. Most guys aren't going out there and chin checking him and knocking him out. So Nate Maness does have an improved submission game. I just don't think he's going to go and submit him. As far as Nate Maness getting knocked out, I don't know. Gravely's not the biggest power puncher. What he does do is he just chain wrestles your face off, man. He just shoots. The difference between him and Khabib is Khabib will just do that all night and not slow down. Whereas Tony Gravely very much will start to slow down.
Well, wait a second.
Go ahead.
You compared Tony Gravely to Khabib?
Multiple takedowns.
Yeah. I mean, one guy's got 6 losses on his record, 5 of which are by submission. We've got Maness coming off of a submission victory where we saw improvements in his grappling. Is this guy just going to keep, shooting takedowns and leaving that neck exposed? It's a possibility. It's an 11-1 bet out there. Maness by
submission?
Maness by sub is actually... I think that's where I'm gonna throw a little sprinkle at this one. I'm not trusting Gravely at this price.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, it's fair because Nate Maness has got the ability to come back and persevere through a bad first round, and he's got a submission game for sure. But I think Gravely's made the improvements. Again, he's at American Top Team, and he's continuously getting better fight to fight. And I heard all the same shit in the Geraldo Freitas fight. Dude, he almost got submitted by Geraldo de Freitas. This is a bad look. And then you see his next time out, it's like he looks more refined. It looks like he's able to keep the wrestling going later into the fight. I just think that he's starting to put it all together and look better. He does knock out Anthony Burchak his last time out, but 4 easy takedowns over a guy that wrestled collegiately out of Arizona. Just, it was a good performance from him. He's not old. He's not over the hill. I think he's still making those improvements. And I think that wrestling is going to be a key to taking down Nate Maness. And then the other thing with Nate is that in that Luke Sanders fight, he's easily getting outstruck in the first round. And then once Sanders tires out, well, that's when he works his way back into it and chin checks him. With Tony Gravely, he's not chinny. He's got submission defense problems, but he's not chinny. So if you don't chin check him, you don't tire him out, he's going to beat you in the striking exchanges en route to taking another takedown, taking another takedown. So I am going to go Gravely. I wouldn't fault you for taking Nate Maness. I will leave you with a suggestion, though, that if you want to bet Nate Maness pre-fight, you're confident in pre-fight, I think you're going to get a better plus money tag after the first. And that's going to be the real key, is whether he's able to tire him out and work his way back into it, which we've seen him do before. But yeah, dude, that Johnny Munoz Jr. fight, he got outstruck. For the record. He got outstruck 49-21 and got taken down twice. And one submission attempt credited to Johnny Munoz. And he won. How did he win? He didn't do shit. And the Luke Sanders fight, he actually wasn't doing shit until Luke Sanders pulled the Luke Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to see more. I got to see more out of that. Whereas Gravely, it's like he fights world-class dudes. He fights good level of competition. He's out of a great gym, and he's getting better, right? Minus 210. You're right. Too big of a favorite. Greasy proposition. Gonna have to get a little greasy in some of these spots, and got to go with Gravely here.
All right, moving on down the card, we got Rong taking on late incomer Brandon Jenkins, who was fighting Jacob Kilburn a few weeks ago in the PFL. No odds whatsoever on this. Rong was supposed to take on what's his freaking name, Dakota Bush. I had already done tape study on. I mean, I knew what Rong was. It was really funny. It's like his UFC debut. It's like on the regional scene. The guy's throwing like jumping kicks, doing a whole bunch of crazy shit, lots of early finishes, and that guy was gun shy. And I was on Kazula Vargas because the price was right. I think it was a plus 210 underdog that we cashed that night. And round one, I just going back and rewatching, it's just like he looked. I think that was the first. It was the first event with like a crowd back in, crowds back in the UFC. He looked, I don't know if it was, round one and round two, he basically does next to nothing. He looked like shell shocked. Round three, he came on arguably, except one judge gave it 30-26, which was bogus. I bet Vargas, and I don't understand how you could score it that way. It was about as clear cut of a 29-28 as you can get. It seems like this Jenkins guy, just from a quick look, like he's a finisher, 15-7. He gets after it. It's a high amplitude type of fight. I'll be paying close attention to what the total gets set on this, because I probably want to bet an under between the two of these guys, hoping that Rong comes out and fights like he did on the regional scene. And this just becomes absolute chaos. Do you have a hot lean on this one? I know that like this fight literally was just booked this afternoon, and we're recording on a Wednesday. What's your take here?
Nothing more in this world I'd like to do than fade me some Brendan Jenkins. But yeah, the thing with Rong is I made a new policy following the last time Rong fought, which is like, I don't want to bet these 20-year-old kids. I don't want to bet these 21-year-old kids, right? I know what I was doing at 2021 and it won this, right? You're just young. You're immature. You think you know everything, but you don't know shit, right? And it's like, you got a long ways to go. In this kid's case, he's one of these Chinese prospects. He's out of Enbo. If you know anything about Enbo, you know. But he's 17-4, right? He's 17-3, comes into the UFC. He's a 20-fight veteran, and he's 20 years old. So, yeah, those are giant cause for concern. But, of course, you got a Chinese prospect. They're trying to market him. He's got multiple Chinese teammates on the card. They got UFC Performance Institute China, which is providing them. Dean Amessinger, head coach over there. It's like, yeah, there's a clear narrative. They'd like these guys to win so that they can push them and market them into the South Asian demographic. Like, it makes sense. You want these guys to win, but they got to go out and perform. You're 100% right. On the regional scene, this kid's fearless. He's going out there. He's throwing wild techniques. He's got great output. His wrestling looks good. He's strong. He actually looks like a legitimate Chinese prospect. And hey, with 20 fights under his belt, even though he's young, he's got experience. And then the Vargas fight, deer in the headlights. He gets tripled up in the strike count in every single round. Even in the third round, Vargas is completely gassed out and yet still just 3-1. Like, he just stares at him, and it's tough to watch. He lets the moment slip away from him. Now, anybody makes their UFC debut, they tell you about these octagon jitters, and you experience it for the first time, and it's bright lights. And as you mentioned, there's a live crowd back there. And problem with Vargas is he's Mexican, so he's very difficult to put away. You're knocking him out. Good luck. And Vargas is one of those guys as well. Like, not only just his heritage, but his fight style. He's one of these grindy type guys. He threw a ton of punches in that fight, but he fought very cast iron. This kid just could not stand up to it. So against Dakota Bush, yeah, I mean, Bush was a guy that came in on short notice his last time. And I don't know, we don't have to talk about that match in particular, but Zhu Rong could win the fight if he fights to the best of his abilities. If he fights the way he did against Vargas, like, I don't know.
You can't
I don't
back
see
the
it
guy.
happening.
Yeah. He didn't throw any strikes.
Can't.
He
Yeah,
looked
so with Brandon,
shell-shocked.
totally shell shocked. Mind you, he did get 3 takedowns and then he couldn't do anything with them, right?
No.
So he's not some great ground specialist and he's not a great striker. He's young. And look at Song Yadong. Song Yadong is 22, I believe, when the UFC signed him. He goes to Team Alpha Male. He's training with some good guys. He marginally gets better. They match him up with some absolute killers, and he gets some very valuable experience within that time, right? He could actually break out and be a top 10 guy of the division and looks to have a promising enough future, right? Zhu Rong would, I know China Performance Institute, China, and they got money and they've got this and that. He would be better set. He's 20 years old, man. He'd actually be better set to go to an American top team, log up 2 fights with LFA, get a contender series fight, win that, get into the UFC, and already have all that much more experience and go beyond that. Unfortunately, just don't have the luxury. So I think they knew what they were doing, giving him Dakota Bush, winnable fight, but he still got to show up. And now with Jenkins, you've got a different matchup altogether. But Jenkins is out of Syndicate MMA, so he's literally just next door. It makes a lot of sense that as far as using a short nose replacement at this weight class, he would be the guy. He took virtually no damage against Jacob Kilburn, his last fight for PFL. He blasted him with a switch flying knee in the first round. So he came out relatively unscathed, but straight up, man, I don't think he's all that good. Like, his technique is very loopy at times. He is a finisher, as you mentioned, but he finishes a lot of lower level guys. In the Jacob Kilburn fight, Jacob Kilburn was actually starting to beat him. It's the first round. I get it, but Kilburn's got superior volume. He's backing him up. Jenkins is kind of looking a tad bit flustered, and then he just throws up a flying knee and happens to get a KO victory. So dope, especially if you're betting Jenkins. And the KO prop, that's all good stuff. But I'm not going to say it was fluky. It's a flying knee. It's pretty dope. But at the same time, it's not exactly the technique you see every day. Prior to that, I mean, it's kind of on the lower end level of talent. But I'm not saying he can't win. I just think he's not. He's very mid-level mediocre. And Ru Zong's got either the chance. Zhu Rong, sorry, he's either got the chance to be an upper echelon guy. Looks like he could be. He's got some skill, or he's capable of fighting a dog shit game plan again. I'd be interested in taking Rong, but we don't have a line in front of us. And so for that reason, I can almost assure you he's going to open up probably decent. And I don't even know. I don't know what they'll open it at. If I had to guess, I would guess minus 145, minus 155 Rong. But if you factor in how bad he looked in that last performance, he shouldn't really be a favorite over anybody.
He was a massive favorite against Vargas. He was like almost a 3-1 favorite in that spot, which is why I ended up
minus
on the
235, minus 250. Yeah, and you know what? And that's, again, you always create new theories in this game. That's where it was like, why not just auto fade these 20-year-old kids? Why not just auto fade these 21-year-old kids? Because even if it was like, dude, this Sage Northcutt, he's got it all. Well, he actually faltered pretty heavy, largely based on his age. Macy Barber, whoa. She looks like she'd be the youngest champion in UFC history. But she's actually super young. The guys that are young, like Cyril Gane, because he's only got 5 fights, they're not young in age, right? They've already learned things. They've already experienced. Their body has naturally gotten bigger. I think when you're 20, 21 years old, you still got high school friends, and they're hitting you up for tickets, and they're hitting you up for like, hey, man, we should hang out. I haven't seen you in a year, but I seen you on TV and just wanted to hope everything's good. Like, you just got more distractions in your life. You're not as settled. And it's easier for a young kid to get flustered in there. And no doubt there are such things as these super prospects, but there's more Chase Hoopers that need 3-4 more years on the regional scene than there are bona fide killers who are 20 years old, right? This is not tennis, women's tennis in particular, where it's like you're 18 and you're the best in the world, right? It doesn't happen. You get to your peak is 30 years old. So as a 20-year-old fighter, you're 10 years away from the peak of your career. You know, can we have faith in those guys? I don't know. I would have to say you avoid this fight altogether. You pass. If Zurong comes out and looks like the guy that they were building him up to be, then we can go from forward. If he comes out and he lays out another flat egg, he's just a busted prospect. Simple as that, right? Only time will tell. This is an interesting enough fight, but I'm not a Jenkins kind of guy. I'm familiar with Brandon Jenkins, not a Jenkins kind of guy. And so I would almost auto fade him and take Rong, but I need to see a price.
Of course. I wouldn't say you flat out pass without seeing a price, because if there's insane value, then you take the insane value. But I'm hoping to find a nice little under in this spot. Short notice coming in. I know that he came out flat last time. I'm sure he's been working on. I mean, on the regional scene, this guy was a fucking maniac. That's what I was kind of expecting. I was expecting him to be the one gassing out late against Vargas, not the other way around. But he really tried to conserve himself in that situation. Obviously, as we've said multiple times, he looked really, really shell-shocked. Didn't look up to the moment. Definitely made some improvements. Round 3 started to come on. Maybe you can build off of that, but I'll be looking to try to bet the under if the price is right here. Moving on down, we got Montel Jackson taking on JP Bays, minus 630 Jackson, plus 450 Bays. 8.5-inch reach advantage for Jackson here. Probably has more skills in every single department. Besides price, are there major concerns for you about Jackson in this spot?
I suppose the only concern, if we want to talk about concerns, is that Jackson seems like he's got a susceptible to get taken down, right? Mm-hmm. I think against wrestlers, he could have a bit of an issue. You've seen in the Ricky Simone fight or the Brett Johns fight, where it's like these guys that are stocky power guys, they will be able to control him up against the cage for a little bit of period. They will be able to take him down. He shows 66% takedown defense, but keep in mind, 8 takedowns surrendered against Brett Johns. He got taken down by Felipe Corrales. He got taken down by Andre Sukumantath. He got taken down 7 times by Ricky Simone. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking at potential problems for a guy, maybe it looks like takedown defense could be a tad bit of an issue. And with JP Buys coming from a pretty high level wrestling pedigree, one would imagine that is certainly a path to victory for him. Here's why it's probably not a path to victory for him. First and foremost, JP Buys is a flyweight. Fights at 125 pounds. He doesn't even really seem like he's the biggest flyweight going. He debuts in the UFC against Bruno Silva, again at 125 pounds. And he's supposed to have this perceived wrestling advantage, right? He was on the Contender Series. They talk so much about the wrestling, South African wrestling. He's on the same card as his fiancée, as his wife, Cheyenne, right? I mean, it's that narrative that they're just knocking time and time again, wrestling. And when he fought Bruno Silva, you'd have no idea that this guy knew how to wrestle. Not because his wrestling looked bad, just because he wasn't wrestling at all. Even when he was getting his ass beat standing, he still opted not to shoot the takedown. Now, that either shows you that he was deathly afraid of Bruno Silva's grappling and didn't want to go to the ground, or that he's got suspect ring IQ. So, yeah, should he take down Montel Jackson? Yeah, he should. 2 problems, right? 1, I don't know if he's going to. 2, Montel Jackson's got problems with 35ers that are good wrestlers, right? Against a 25er, he's going to have a ton more success. Mm-hmm. This guy's big. He's extremely strong. Everyone that's met him, shook hands with him, greeted the guy, will tell you exactly how big his hands are, and that he's like the UFC PI guy says, like grip strength off the charts, right? He was very young, very green when he came into MMA, and he's just, getting a lot better. He debuted, pro debut in 2017, right? June 2017. He makes his debut 14 months later in the UFC. 14 months. He goes from a pro debut to a UFC debut opposite Ricky Simone and still went the distance with him. That's freakish, man. That's good stuff. And where Zurong's 20 years old, this guy's 29. He's done it the right way.
Yeah, a ton of amateur
I think he's making a lot of
too.
Yeah, I think he's doing it the right way. He's accrued experience. He's gotten better. He's realized where he's made mistakes. Ricky Simone and Brett Johns were able to exploit him with the wrestling, and they are power wrestlers. Brett Johns is a judo black belt and was part of the Irish wrestling team. And Ricky Simone, he's a collegiate wrestler out of Portland. Like, both of those guys are going to have a ton of success, and they did have a ton of success. The other guys in between, yeah, he's stuffing the takedowns. He's working in his own takedowns in some cases. And then this Jesse Strader fight, it's like y'all must have forgot. Like, this guy shouldn't be in the ring with Montel Jackson, and he just goes out and he ices him in the first round exactly how you're supposed to. Dana Batgarel was going to be another good fight for Montel. He wins that fight. I think he's the rightful favorite in that spot. Batgarel is a little more durable, a bigger body, and can also wrestle. So he's been getting ready for this. Now he's getting JP Buys, a smaller body, not quite as durable, 0-1 in the UFC. Short notice. Like, I just, it's got to be Montel the whole way through. But I'm not telling you anything you don't know already, because he's what, a 6-1 favorite? He's a minus 630. Yeah, he's a minus 630 favorite. Whereas I do think that JP Buys is going to be able to last a round and a half, that we probably hit that over 1.5 at minus 150. He's undersized and he's short notice. And Montel Jackson has shown that he's got a ton of power in his hands and is improving every time out. So it could be a little bit stickier than we'd like it to be. But I would say that JP Buys can at least last that 1.5 en route to eventually losing this fight. I think even if he does get early takedowns, he's not going to be able to get them throughout the course of the full 15 minutes. Jackson's eventually going to keep the fight standing. He's got the full camp, so cardio shouldn't be an issue. And he's got the better striking technique. You know, he's going to be the stronger man in the clinch. And even up against the cage, he'll have a lot of success. If you thought Bruno Silva was strong, wait until Montel puts his hands on you, right? So I got to go with Jackson. And again, he's the big favorite.
So that parlay that I made, Montel Jackson, was the second leg of said parlay. And the third leg of said parlay is Erin Blanchfield, who takes on Sarah Alpar. Minus 320 at DraftKings Sportsbook for Blanchfield, plus 250 for Alpar. I mean, Blanchfield kind of dodged a bullet, I think. She was coming in, taking on Big Norm. I like calling her Big Norm because she can't make bantamweight.
I like that.
Big Norm was going to be way too big. That's a 145 pounder. That girl is thick with like 6 C's. Like, that girl is big. And we're kind of dealing with Blanchfield, who almost seems like a small flyweight, to be perfectly honest. Like, there was going to be severe problems with someone. I guess she's got some decent head kicks. Watched her on the regional scene against Victoria Leonardo. She was able to land that kick twice, drops her in the first round, and then round 2 lands it again. So obviously she's young. The skills are there. Alpar, rewatching her fight against Jessica Rose Clark. I mean, it probably has a lot to do with Jessica Rose Clark making a lot of improvements in her own right. But it seemed very one-dimensional. She really only had one path. She only had one gear. And she was just desperately chasing the legs, looking for takedowns. I mean, I forget what the name of the ref is, but it's like he wanted to see a dead body in round 3 because she was getting throttled. Eats a knee that wasn't, I guess to the ref's eyes, didn't look illegal. Or that it looked illegal to him at the time, but her ass hadn't hit the ground yet. So she was actually just like up against the cage. Her ass was like an inch off of the ground, and she ate a knee right to the face. It was completely clean. She's cut wide open, and then he gets her back in there, and she takes like another 2 minutes of sustained beating. Shouts to anybody who was on the under 2.5 rounds, because that guy stole money out of your pocket. That fight was over. Should have been done. But I didn't see much from Alpar in that showing. Like, she's gonna have to control this fight against the cage. I think Blanchfield probably is the better jiu-jitsu practitioner in this fight. I think the striking is much better for Erin Blanchfield. I don't usually add, women's flyweights that aren't named like Valentina Shevchenko to parlays, but I don't see much from Sarah Alpar. Blanchfield wins. I was considering Blanchfield inside the distance, but Alpar was able to take a hellacious beating in that spot and survive until the last minute. And it was like plus 275, and it's like I would have hit that at the opening. But it's been coming down. Now it's like plus 200. I just don't think there's enough meat on the bone. So Blanchfield, Jackson, Tsarukyan. It's chalky, but I think it hits.
You're probably right. I was actually on the over 2.5, and Sarah Alpar did everything in her power to cash that ticket, baby. Her face, I'll never forget this. And I've seen a lot of MMA fights. This burned into my mind. She got fucked up, Paul.
You
She's
got
getting
saved on that bet, by the way.
saved.
Because that fight was over. That fight was over. And then 2
Yes.
minutes for them to watch replay is the only reason why she was able to recover to survive another 2 minutes, cash your ticket. You got
Dude, it's a 10-8. No, man, it's a 10-8 round. The second round's a 10-8 round. She is getting destroyed. Her face is just blown to pieces. The legal knee. And the referee's like, do you want to continue? And she just looks up. She's like, yeah, not even the slightest bit of hesitation in her voice. Face destroyed. Nose shattered. Blood everywhere. And he's like, do you want to continue? And she's just like, yeah, just no problem. It's like, girl, based on how this is going, it ain't going to get no better, right? You're not going to go and turn the tide. It's only just 100 more punches that you're going to eat in the face. And she was totally game, man. She was game to go out there. And so gameness is not always going to get you the victory, but yeah, I'll appreciate. I would consider her to be a fighter. She's a fighter. She wants to get in there. She wants to fight. This is her jam. She was supposed to be a little bit better. She comes from this wrestling background. As far as her high school career goes, 34-8 is a senior. She was 5th in junior nationals, 2-time All-American, lettered 4 times in wrestling, 4 times all-regional. And why the fuck would they put her? She was is choir. You can be a 4-time all-regional in choir. Class valedictorian. So she's smart girl, good wrestling, good size, I suppose. Good size at 125. Her last number of fights have been at 135. And so then now she's dropping back to 125 to take on Erin Blanchfield. And that's those are all I can drum up for the positives, is that she's going to be big at 25. She's considered to be a decent wrestler for this division. And she's tough, man. She's willing to get punched in the face. That's kind of where it ends. Her problem here is that wrestling would allude to you're going to take down Erin Blanchfield. Bad news. Blanchfield, much better grappler. Okay. Well, what if we just keep this thing standing? Ooh, bad news. Blanchfield, better striker. It's okay, well, what if you just grind her up against the cage? Possible. But Blanchfield's wrestling's actually improving a lot as well. Listen, I know I said don't bet these 21, 20-year-old prospects. Blanchfield 22. She breaks that rule, my friend. All jokes aside, it's again, she's another fighter I would say did it the right way. CFFC, one of the top organizations in the world, right? Then she signs with Invicta. In Invicta, she beats Kay Hansen, future UFC fighter. She loses a close, tightly contested fight to Tracy Cortez, who's currently in the UFC. She beats Victoria Leonardo, who's currently in the UFC. You see what I mean? Is that she's fighting UFC talent before getting there.
Yeah.
She was supposed to fight Pearl Gonzalez. She debuts, her coaches let a 21-year-old girl debut in the UFC on short notice, up a weight class against Norma Dumont. How much faith they got in this girl? A lot. And so even though she's only 22, she's done an excellent job of getting high-level experience, improving her all-around game. And I think that where she does lack here and there, she's rapidly improving. She's rapidly adding to her game, right? I guess her 2 weaknesses would be her wrestling's not elite by no means, and her striking's not elite. But you see the striking's getting a lot better. It's getting more refined. You see the wrestling's working. And again, at 22, she's still 4 or 5 years away from starting to hit her prime, but she's doing an excellent job in preparing herself on the way up. So I want to see Alpar at the scales just to make sure she's not looking like Jailton Almeida. But as long as she's not, I got to go ahead and lock in Blanchfield. And I think as far as the 3-fight parlay goes, you've got it knocked out. I know they're the biggest
Alpar
favorites on the card now.
begging for money. And I think
was,
I think Jake Paul gave her money or something to make Dana look bad because she was online begging for money on GoFundMe or something like that.
Yeah, she created GoFundMe. She needed some funds. I think she was looking for I want to say it might have been $5,000 or $8,000, but yeah, she's basically I don't got no money to train for these fights. She hadn't fought in a year. She lost that Jesse Rose Clark fight where she got mauled, and then she had a fight fall off with Stephanie Egger, and then had a fight fall off with Lupita Godinez, and they just didn't even rebook her. Right? Normally, it's oh, your opponent pulled out, we'll find your replacement. Oh, the replacement's got a visa issue, we'll just move you to next week's card or the card the week after that. They just didn't even book her. So if you're trying to do this full time, you don't got no money, right? And now you got to work a job. Now you got, I don't know, all those different things. You want to know me eating some crow?
It's a year in between fights. That is a pretty...
It's a lot.
I'm sure it was the first 3 months, there was probably some healing to do. She wouldn't have been able to get back in there. But that's a long time when you're getting $12,000. $12,000 bucks to survive for a year. Good luck.
Could you imagine that? And you're a
I mean,
high-level
it would.
athlete, and this is what you're supposed to do all the time. You're supposed to be eating clean food and drinking. Food's expensive, man. You try to buy good food, especially, it's twice as expensive.
Mhm.
And because you're the grocery master, dude. I've been grocery shopping with you. You're like, I'm not paying that for cheese. I can just come back neck week and be on sale. Like, you got
Always
it
buy
down
cheese
pat,
when it's
right?
on sale. And you can put it in the freezer.
Butter, yeah, you're the grocery master, dude. But what I'm saying is, because you're the grocery master, like, shit's expensive. And you want to go get that good stuff all the time because you're in fight camp and trying to prepare. It's not
They're probably
easy.
not
And
eating
in
cheese.
Blanchfield's case, her parents might just be supporting her still, right? She's only 22, right? She could be in college, but she opted not to go to college. So we got a little money on the side. Let's support her dreams. Girl's kicking some ass. She's in the UFC. Like, probably easier to train full time when you've never worked a job. I'm not saying she's never worked a job. I don't know. I would say she's probably had very limited amount of jobs.
Fair. I had a lot of jobs by the time I was 22.
Yeah.
But
you're like Homer Simpson, that episode he lists all of his jobs off of. It's like you've done a lot of things people probably wouldn't expect.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you do what you got to do when you got to do it. All right, moving on down the card, we got Impa Kasaganai taking on Carlston Harris, minus 125 Kasaganai, plus 105 Harris. Another closely aligned fight. Who you like here, Cody?
I think this is another closely lined fight that I could make a good case for either guy, but I think it comes down to a dogger pass type situation. For Impa Kasaganai, again, it's going to go back to this, probably getting pretty repetitive at this point, but this, just a green fighter. What is a green fighter? They're all making improvements. They're all getting better. And Impa Kasaganai looks in tremendous shape. I believe he's at Sanford MMA now. And he's definitely getting a lot better. The problem is that he's kind of short in way of, these big experience fights against high-level guys. In fact, the Maki Pitolo fight, he didn't really look overly good in the first round. Then Maki completely gasses out. In the Joaquin Buckley fight, Paul, he never let his hands go. He looked deer in the headlight. He was just kind of staring at him until eventually he got a kick caught. He caught a kick and then ate the greatest insecurity of all times that destroyed him. But the Sasha Palatnikov fight in the first round, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't let his hands go. He doesn't have some big dynamic striking. And then the second round, he decides, get this fight to the ground. He uses his own offensive wrestling to get Sasha down. And, well, I guess as we know now, Sasha Palatnikov not really good at defending the rear naked choke. And Impa Kasaganai puts him away. So it's good that he gets the victory. But again, it wasn't like it was it wasn't a world-class win. It was over Sasha Palatnikov. He didn't look great doing it, The first round, he's really low volume. I think he lands 10 significant strikes. The second round, he has to rely on his wrestling against Sasha Palatnikov. Against Carlston Harris, I don't know that you're going to be able to rely on your wrestling. This dude's got a nasty submission game, man. He gets a hold of your neck, you are in big trouble. He gets a handful of that neck, you're in trouble. So I don't know that Impa's going to just be able to drop back and shoot for takedowns when he wants. As far as the striking goes, Impa looks tight. He looks technical. He's out of a good striking gym. But Harrison's probably just going to bomb him. He's got a big right hand. He's got some decent striking. He throws better volume. He's going to try to back him up. And in a small cage, he's probably going to be shooting the takedown in on you. You're going to run out of space eventually, and he's going to try to get a hold of you. When I seen him on the regional scene, I was, pretty impressed. Like, he had beaten some decent guys. If you look at his record, right? This is what I like about him, I guess. Win over Jolton Luderbach, who's in PFL now. He's in the tournament, right? He's got a win over Michelle Pereira, who's in the UFC now, kicking some ass. He's got a win over Wellington Turman in the UFC now. Carl Booth is a standout British fighter. This Saigid Izakmaev, right, is 17-1, and then he debuts in the UFC first-round submission win over Christian Aguilera, right? He's 34 years old, so he's not a prospect making his UFC debut. Green still needs to figure it out. This is who he is. He's a refined version of himself, and he's good. He's got decent striking, decent wrestling, and a nasty submission game. And I don't know, I kind of see this being as more of a dogger pass type situation. I can see his Impa having higher ceiling down the road, but this is right here, right now. And right here, right now, he's still trying to figure out his game. What does he want to do? Does he want to wrestle? Does he want to grapple? Is he a grappler now? I thought he was a striker. He used to be a striker. Then he got his face kicked off, and now he's not looking to engage. He's still trying to figure out what his game is. Whereas Carlston Harris knows what his game is and uses it extremely effectively every time out. So, could cardio be an issue for the 34-year-old the later this thing goes, seeing how he is a potent finisher, tends to get these things done early? Yeah, it could be. But is Impa a cardio machine? Is Impa a guy that's going to take you into deep waters? Not necessarily. I don't know. I go back and forth in my mind in this fight. I really do. But there's 15 fights. Dogs are going to come through. This is a dog or pass type situation to me. And again, I know it's only a plus 105 prospect for Carlson Harrison, but I like what he brings to the table. I want to see weigh-ins. Of course, Imp always looks good at weigh-ins, but you just want to make sure neither guy's drained or had a bad weight cut or anything of such. But I don't mind Harris to get the job done.
I'm kind of totally with you on this. Haven't bet it yet, but I think Carlston Harris, twice the amount of experience. He's fought some good guys, as you were talking about, on the regional scene on his way up over the years. Impa, turned into a grappler last time. I was just like, good luck fighting that type of game plan here. And I think it's going to be competitive on the feet. So more experience, plus money underdog. Harris by sub is plus 300 at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. That's kind of interesting to me as well. I'm going to have to put a little bit of thought into that play, but I'm right on the same page with you. That's where I was leaning towards on this spot, but I wanted to talk to you first. Moving on down, we've got Alatang Heli taking on Gustavo Lopez, minus 130. Alatang Heli. Gustavo Lopez can be had for plus 110. I mean, all we really know about Haley Alatang Heli. I'm never really too sure how to say these Mongolian guys' names, but the guy has like mutant level durability. Like, I think that the Casey Kenny fight, how many strikes did this guy take off of his damn noggin? He just would not die. It was only 109, but it felt like more. Super durable. That's all of his fights go to decision. Do you have a strong lean on a side in this fight? Because I don't know what to think of it.
Dude, I'll tell you something straight up. You want to talk about highly Alatang's durability. It's not just, 109 significant strikes is lots, right? You mentioned to the noggin. It was to the body. Holy shit. Body, yeah. 41 significant strikes to the body. Okay. I was shitting blood for 3 days after the fight for this guy. Like, that was painful to watch, man. His organs would have been like beef stew. And yet he persevered throughout. And that durability is going to be key here because Gustavo Lopez seemingly likes to get the job done early. I find that he tends to get tired and kind of fall off a little bit the longer the fight goes. So that would be a good opportunity for Haley Alatang. I know that Alatang seems to be online anyways. Like, everybody's darling this week. A lot of people are betting him as that currently still the underdog, correct? He's
he's minus 130.
No,
favorite.
He's a slight favorite now. And did he open that? It doesn't matter.
No,
it's a close 50-50 fight. So. Yeah, it could be. I seen everybody kind of on Alatang this week.
Let's see.
It
basically opened up as a pick'em, and people are betting on Alatang, and it's moved from minus 110 to minus 130.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm seeing is that there's some love coming out for him, and that he's durable. He's got a wrestling advantage. He's got some okay striking, and that he should be able to take advantage of Gustavo Lopez. My issue with him is, and always will be, is just so low output. I can't get behind that. This Dana Batgarel fight, he wins. Keep this in mind, right? He got outstruck 85-36. Yeah, but he mixed in a few takedowns, so they gave it to him. 85-36. Oof. The Ryan Bunnoid fight, he got outstruck 68-47. Yeah, but he mixed in some takedowns, so he wins the fight. What the fuck? And then the Casey Kenny fight, he gets outstruck 109-46. No takedowns. So it's like he's been tripled up in the significant strike count in all three of his UFC fights. He just does not throw any volume. What he does rely on is that he can take all your best shots, right? Grind forward and score a takedown. If the judges sitting ringside like wrestling, if they enjoy a takedown, then he'll edge out the round. If they're watching him get outstruck 3-1 and they're scoring that, he's not going to win the round. And I guess that's kind of my problem is that Gustavo Lopez figures to have a significant striking advantage, right? He's not like he's got that much better hands, but he will throw more volume. He's got some decent boxing. He's training out of Extreme Couture. He's going to be well prepared for this fight. As far as his takedown defense goes, it's hard to gauge, He'd only been taken down by one guy, Merab Dvalishvili. It just so happens he got taken down 13 times against Merab Dvalishvili. So his takedown numbers are going to be real low. His takedown defense numbers are going to be real low for the foreseeable future because he got taken down 13 times in one singular fight. But since then, truth be told, the Anthony Burchak fight, he took Burchak down twice, which is, in my opinion, impressive. right? Attempted and submitted him as well. Perchek's a BJJ black belt. So it shows that his grappling is not bad. His wrestling, something that he does have in his back pocket on top of that striking acumen. The Adrian Yanez fight, yeah, he was gun shy, but who wouldn't be? Like, he was getting pieced up so bad in that fight. I just think he got real hesitant on letting his hands go eventually. And Yanez, who appears to be a super prospect, was able to take over. So again, when I look at level of competition, Merab Dvalishvili is realistically a top 5 guy. He might be ranked in the top 10, but he's got the goods. Well, you know what? I take that back. Bantamweight's just so talent rich. But you know what I mean. Merab Dvalishvili is an elite level competitor capable of winning against anybody on a good day, I suppose. Perchek was a savvy veteran, but to choke him out in the first round, that's impressive. And then Adrian Yanez is a super prospect. So he hasn't really had the easiest run, and he shows glimpses here and there, whereas Alatang, outside of the Casey Kinney fight, had been fighting lower level guys. And again, getting outstruck 2-1. This would be a good live betting opportunity again, because I think Gustavo Lopez wins the first round. I think he just beats him to the punch. My worry is that Alatang has that durability, and Gustavo Lopez tires out. So even if he does win the first round, just like they all do, yeah, he grinds on you. He does get a couple of those takedowns, and he gives the perception off that he's just working you. Doesn't matter if he's landing ground and pound. He's scoring takedowns. He's establishing top control. It looks good in the judge's eyes. So it's a 50-50 fight. It could go either way. I would label it kind of as a dog or pass type situation. Seems like everybody's on Alatang. If I'm saying it's a dog or pass, then I would have to end up going with Gustavo Lopez. And so so tentatively, as of right now, I don't know. Maybe I go with Lopez. What's your thoughts anyway?
I worry about that durability. Like, I think if Lopez doesn't get him out of there, and it seems like this guy is a bit of a mutant. Like, Dana Bakkarel, 85 significant strikes. Like, that guy hits, he's a murderer. He's a murderer. And it's just like being able to take that guy's and just like taking that guy's punishment, moving forward, securing takedowns, close fight. But, you know, he's the guy controlling the fight, controlling where the fight takes place. When it's on the feet, he's eating shots. I think where you said live opportunity is probably the better way to go about it, but maybe you get a better price on Haley Alatang, or I don't know. Fuck, you're right though. More people are definitely. It doesn't seem like too many people are really betting this fight in general, but overwhelmingly, the majority of like the early action is coming in per Bet MMA tips on Alatang Haley. Give me the durability and the seemingly gas tank. I'll lean towards. I'll join the rest of Twitter on Alatang Haley, but I'm not gonna bet it. And finally, the fight that puts the pass in Fight Pass: Emily Whitmire versus Hannah Goldie. Who you got?
That's a great way to set it up. Yeah, I mean, like back in the day when we used to do Bookie Beatdown, this is Paul's little saying. It was he'd call it the cranberry sauce fight of the night.
Oh,
I
yeah.
go, what the hell's a cranberry sauce fight of the night? He'd be like, it's cranberry sauce fight of the night. I don't know what that is, Paul. He'd like, you know when you go to Thanksgiving dinner? So, yeah. So you sit down. There's turkey. There's mashed potatoes. You got some steamed carrots. You've got the stuffing, right? Nice fresh rolls. So, yeah. He says, you ever notice that there's a little thing of cranberry sauce on the table? Fuck yeah, dude. I noticed that. Why is there always cranberry sauce at Thanksgiving? He says, do you ever eat it? No, it's gross. Why would you? He says, right. It's there. It's part of the meal. It always is.
But if it wasn't there, you'd still enjoy the meal all the same. Maybe you like cranberry.
You might have it. You might not.
Maybe you like cranberry sauce, and yeah, you take a dabble. But if they didn't have cranberry sauce, you wouldn't be like, no, I'm not eating my turkey dinner. It's just the same thing with this card. It's just like,
no one's ever said Thanksgiving
to
ruined.
fall off, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to be broken up about it.
And that, my friend, is exactly it. It's that one fight on the card. And this fight, you can argue there's tons of cranberry sauce in this card, right? But this one in particular, it's like, yeah, I mean, when it was originally going to be Corey McKenna versus Emily Whitmire, I think it's interesting because McKenna's another one of these ultra young prospects, looks good, out of Team Alpha Male full time. They're investing a lot of interest in her as she's improving. Yeah, it's a good prospect. Now you've got Hannah Goldie, who's a few months removed from an abysmal performance against Diana Balbita, jumping back into there. Man, it's a greasy fight all over. Emily Whitmire, meanwhile, hasn't fought professionally in 13 months, albeit she did get into a fight with Johnny Case, which resulted in him getting released from the PFL organization. So her personal life's probably had a little bit of a turmoil. She's in Las Vegas. She's at Extreme Couture. That's all well and good. But see, what I like about guys that go to Vegas, girls that go to Vegas, is when you're from a small town gym and you've gotten as good as you could get, you got good coaching staff, and then you branch out and you get those training partners. She's one of these girls that's been in Vegas her entire career, right? So the improvements really haven't materialized all that much. At her best, she's got some decent striking, some decent wrestling. She tends to just get caught in these bad submission attempts, Whitmire does. And that's kind of the problem, is that she was on a little bit of a roll, I suppose. She loses her debut to Jillian Robertson. She beats teammate Jamie Moyle, hustles her up. She beats Alexandra Albu. Okay. She looks like she's making those improvements. And then Rebus and Polyana Viana both submit her. Rebus, you give her a pass. She's a top-level girl. The Viana fight was a little tougher because it's an armbar from guard. And, like, it just doesn't happen anymore. It does in women's MMA, I suppose, but it shouldn't be happening. She gets caught in armbar from guard. That drops her to 4-4. She's been off a year now. I don't know. Has she made improvements? I would hope so, but I can't be sure of that. Hannah Goldie, meanwhile, Goldie's got the type of volume to potentially win this fight just on a volume striking match. It's that she's been figured out. The blueprint has now been created to defeat her. And I don't know, she's not making any adjustments. All you got to do is just back this girl up. Back this girl up. She doesn't cut angles. She'll move straight back all the way to the cage. And once she hits the cage, she's easy money. You know, Balbito used it extremely effectively. I thought Miranda Granger did an even better job just backing her straight up into the cage. And so I feel like Emily Whitmire should be a little bit more aggressive. She should be able to come forward, let her hands go. She should be able to back up her opponent, get her towards there, and then shoot the takedown. That'd be the name of the game, is get that takedown. The thing is, though, is that Hannah Goldie is shredded, right? She's muscular.
At
and
115,
so taking her down,
she was particularly shredded, but this is at 125.
yeah, it's 125, and I would say that, you know, all the same, but she's just a little more, not more muscular. She just have a little more water weight on her, I suppose, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I could see her going out there, you know, being physically strong, being able to stuff the takedowns on the basis of just being the stronger fighter. And then as far as stand-up goes, she does have decent output. She looked awful against Diana Belbita, but she landed 92 significant strikes. She looked awful against Granger and really only got outstruck by 6 strikes against her. And then that fight with Callie Robbins on Contender Series, she lands 141 significant strikes, despite getting taken down twice, just pops back up, and just volume. When you look at Emily Whitmire, first and foremost, she's also a strawweight, right? She's campaigned her entire UFC career at 115 pounds. So they're both moving up to 125. I don't think you can give a natural advantage to anybody there. But again, her fights tend to end a lot quicker. The ones that have gone 15 minutes, just one, Jamie Moyle, she landed 53 significant strikes. So to be honest with you, this is the case of her last fight, first round finish. Before that, second round finish. Before that, first round finish. And then her debut was a first round finish. In 5 UFC fights, 4 of them have ended inside the distance, 3 of them within the first round. So I don't know how she holds up over the course of 15. Whereas Hannah Goldie has not looked good, but looks capable of going 15. And last but not least, like, we can laugh at Goldie all we want for the Belbita performance, but look at the end. Look at the end of the round 3. You know, she gets in her mount. Like, you know, Goldie just hasn't figured it out.
Finally took her down, she had massive advantages down there. It's just like, shocker. Yeah, no. That's what I was hoping. I mean, that's what I was hoping she would do from the get-go. It was unbelievable.
I had Belbita, and the first round I was like, sweet, this is a 10-8, you know, we're cruising here. And the second round, it's like, Goldie's tough, you know, she's durable, she can take a punch. The problem is that she's short, she fights with her hands low, she's a little wide-eyed, and she doesn't cut any angles. But you would think that at any point she turns the table, at any point she figures it out, she gets a little more comfortable, she's getting more experience, that stuff would all be considered good. You've got 2 500 fighters, right? You've got a girl in Emily Whitmire that's 4-4. Hannah Goldie's 5-2. But, you know, when you look at her at an elite level, you know, she's just not having those results that you would like. It's a close enough fight. You can make a case it going either way. I really wanted to take Emily Whitmire, but then right as I went to go scoop some Emily Whitmire out of the cranberry sauce thing, I was like, I got enough on my plate. Did I really need the cranberry sauce?
No.
Was I getting greedy, Paul? So I left the cranberry sauce for Grandma to see if she wanted any instead.
All right. So we're just about out of time here. But before we go, all right, what I've got the Tsarukyan Jackson Blanchfield parlay that it's minus 120. I got a little bit better numbers than are out there right now. Those are probably the 3 favorites on the card I feel best about. I would, though, quote unquote locks, and I don't know if you should really be calling lower level competition, lower level fighters here, people still in their developmental process, I don't know if calling them locks is ever a great idea, but those are my quote unquote locks on the card. I've got VanCamp / Motta under 2.5 rounds -110. I'm considering Smith round 4 and Smith round 5 at those like very, 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 very long odds as a little sprinkle play. Maness by sub, another little sprinkle play. And Harris by sub +300. That definitely caught my attention when we were talking about breaking down this fight card here. Tsarukyan inside the distance +150. Maybe not. I guess he has a -800, so it kind of makes sense, but I don't know. I have to put some thought into this because now I'm just kind of sprinkling some long shots, and I only have two plays in, and they're not even particularly big plays. But we'll be watching weigh-ins. You can always follow me on Twitter at Paul Shag, and I'll drop my finalized plays on Saturday. So you can check out that. And I've got a little bit of thinking to do. Got to see the weigh-ins. But yeah, the Tsarukyan, Jackson, Blanchfield parlay and VanCamp, Motta under 2.5 rounds are the only two things that I'm on right now. We'll hit them with the PRP, kid.
Yeah, I like what you're on so far. And yeah, we got 15 fights. We did good on Contender Series last night. So because we launched our buy 1% and a fractional ownership into a racehorse program, I want to hit you with some UFC picks, some Bellator picks, profit both nights or both events, and then set ourselves up in a good spot. So looking at the 15 fight offering we got here, we got Anthony Smith. I'm going to go with like a 4th round submission. Ion Cutelaba. Ion Cutelaba's submission, round 2. Maybe round 1. Regardless, well, I'll fuck the round. I'm just going to go Anthony Smith by submission, Ion Cutelaba by submission, Nickolas Motta by knockout, Mandy Bohm by decision, Arman Tsarukyan, 3rd round TKO, Joaquin Buckley knockout, Mike Rodriguez. God damn, I don't like that. Anyways, Mike Rodriguez by decision, Pannie Kianzad by decision, Tony Gravely by decision, Rong by TKO. Montel Jackson by decision. I'm going to go with a decision on Jackson. Erin Blanchfield by decision. Yeah, Sarah Alpar is so tough.
Mm-hmm.
Carlson Harris by sub or decision. Doesn't really matter, I suppose. And then, yeah, I'll go for now, tentative, but I'll stick with Gustavo Lopez by decision. And I'm going to go with Emily Whitmire by a decision. Don't love it. Again, I'll tweet out some more firmed up stuff on Saturday. Also put out the props, and I'll shoot some stuff over to Manpreet. I know he's doing his his prop show, and I'll throw up some 3 best props and whatnot there. But yeah, just want to build it. And then quickly, I just want to give a shout out to, again, just some of the guys that have already come over on the horse ownership is Mike Inman, Dustin Chafee, Mike Alexander, Joshua Rakers, Ethan Gordon, Colin Bissett, Mike Harrington, Zachary Conti, Jason LaFontazy. Shout out to you guys, man. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. We have 50 shares available. We're down to about 32 shares left. So, yeah, if you're interested in buying 1% of a racehorse for the entire season, it's $500. That's the entire year. No bills. You can hit me up on Twitter if you want more information about it. But we got a cool little group of guys coming together. And what I'd like to do is actually sell 49 shares. And then 1 share we're going to give away for free on Twitter for next week's card, pay-per-view. How you win it is you hit the PRP. Or if 50, 60, 100 people enter closest to the PRP, you get a 1% in a racehorse free of charge for the whole year. No bills. It's a $500 value, $500 US. And if you already own a share and you happen to hit it, you can either have the option of having 2 shares in a horse, right? 2%, or I'll totally refund your 1% money already. No problem there. So yeah, man, setting ourselves up for a good year. For the people that don't have the money to jump on it, but we're interested, that's why I want to make you some money this weekend. So I will never stop the tape study until Saturday night rolls around and the cage door closes. But those are the picks for now. If anything changes, I'll definitely put things out. If you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to hit me out. And good luck as always.
There are changes, Cody. There are changes.
Someone drop off already?
No, but Rong versus Brandon Jenkins, there's a price that was released. It was opened at -200, Rong.
Okay, fair.
And it got steamed to minus 330. Like pretty much within like 20 minutes, it went from -200 to -330. And then other books are opening at like -350. This guy's 22 years old. Adding him as a parlay piece or being way too confident in him, probably risky business. On DraftKings, I wouldn't call him even a free square because he's so inexperienced, but he's 22. And because he's 22 and he's kind of wild. When he's at his best, he's kind of fighting a pretty wild style. But he's only $7,600 on DraftKings. So maybe he becomes just like your DraftKings high upside, big favorite. I mean, everyone will probably own him. I don't know. Check out Bright Appley's video later in the week. Maybe he'll have a take there. I mean, he'll probably have him as his cash game lock because he's minus,
I'll tell
he's
you
minus
a quick story.
330 and he's $7,600. Like, you do the math. Those
Yeah,
I
so-
always take those spots. I guess there is some merit in GPPs of like fading those spots, but it's like I can't help it. I'm a chalk donkey.
Well, you know what? They're favorites for a reason. A lot of times people will be like, man, you just take the favorites. It's like, no, see, you know why these guys got lined as the favorites? Because the bookmaker thought they were going to win, right? The general public's putting money in. The general public thinks they're going to win. They're the favorite. So let's say I'm the bookmaker. Let's say they're like, Cody, I want you to set the lines for all of these fights. There's no lines. You tell me who should be the favorite. I would line them all up. These are the guys I think are going to win. So I think that guy should be the favorite. Then what would they say at the end of it? Well, you're not taking the underdogs? It's like, I set the guy as the underdog because I don't think he's going to win. So yeah, they're always going to hit, right? That's why if you hit the PRP, you get 1%. Well, we're going to do it as close to. Because as you'll come to realize, especially on a 15-fight card, not easy. One guy shits in the pot. One guy's sick, you don't know about it. One guy rolled his ankle 2 weeks ago, you don't know about it. One guy's dog died and like mentally he's fucking off, right?
Well,
you don't know about it.
I mean,
Anything
it's
can
pretty
happen.
unlikely for you
when
to
you
hit
get
a
in there.
15-leg parlay, buddy.
Unlikely, but we're going to do it. You just watch. It's going to happen, Paul. You got to go positive energies, will it into the universe. Last story, and then I'll let you guys go, is just going back to Zhu Rong, right? So when I graduated from college, I was like, I got to move out in the world, right? I got this opportunity to live in a MMA gym, right? It's Tap Out Burlington. It's now called Burlington Training Center. They had like these offices above the gym. It was a mega gym. A lot of, UFC guys train there and whatnot. So I was like, this is a perfect opportunity, right? I want to be close to the action. I want to cover the sport. I just love fights, man. I can just watch it day in and day out. Perfect place to me. So I'm living like in an office, almost like a dormitory style office above this gym. And it was a great time, right? So anyways, I'd go to these classes because why not, right? You're there anyways. And there's this kid, Siri City, right? That was his name. And he's like 16 years old and the kid is just mollywhopping, full grown adults. People walk in there. Well, all the kids, like he beats everybody up. He's only like 16 and I would have been 20, 21. He kicks my ass at sparring. He basically beats up everybody. Kids, relatively same age people. Anyways, we go to sparring night. There's this other guy. He gotta be like 36, 37. He'd come in right from his construction gig. He'd have dirt all over his jeans and drywall all over his shirt. And he'd change and throw on a pair of boxing gloves. And he'd come out and he'd whip this kid's ass, right? And it was awesome. Because it was like, this kid is like a super stud, beats everybody else that we were all sparring with. And this just regular run-of-the-mill guy working a hard labor job all day, gets in the car, drives down to the gym, throws on a pair of gloves, and had the goods, man. Had the goods. Wasn't a pro fighter. Never had a pro fight in his life. I don't even think he had an amateur fight in his life. Was just like one of these tough dude with man strength who in his mind was like, I ain't gonna let this kid beat me. Zoned in, right? In many ways, that exact Siri City ended up being Zhu Rong, and this laborer right off the job site ended up being Kazulo Vargas. We've seen it happen, right? That man strength is real. Jenkins is coming off a first round win with a flying knee. This is his UFC debut. He's on top of the moon. He's out of Extreme Couture. He's nearby. He's got a bunch of training partners on the card. And I did pick Zhu Rong. I just mean, you don't want to disrespect a guy like that and make him a 3-1 underdog. Like, I can see that line actually.
They've done that, Cody. They've
it's
disrespected
a soft opener for now, Paul. We'll see how the money
opener.
rolls in, right?
We will see.
The moral of the story is the tough old dog can still beat the young kid.
I would not advocate for adding 20, 21 or is it 22 now? He's probably 22 now. No,
I think he's 21.
Still 21. Would not advocate adding a 21-year. I mean, I was more interested in the under. Why? Because I think that if he goes back to his previous style that we saw in the Chinese regional scene, just wild, going for the finish, one of these guys gets finished. You don't want to be adding anybody who's making bad decisions in there at minus 330. That's just the fact of the matter in this game. Anyway, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Matt and Cody, I'm Paul. Saying goodbye and good luck.